What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to GB3 Studios, and of course, welcome to your virtual event checklist. I'm your instructor, Garen Belaney. In this seminar, I'm going to be walking you through step-by-step the theory and the implementation of becoming virtually professional. I've been in sales for over a decade, and over 2 years ago, I had to reconstruct the way I conducted business on a day-to-day basis. I've always taken pride in my professionalism and providing my clients and my consumers with an experience that I knew they were not getting from my competitors. And this is where intro to video and intro to virtual professionalism happened. 2 years later, I put myself in a position where I sold 130% over budget in a pandemic year. And I've been teaching corporations and individuals how they can implement this same proven strategy on their day-to-day basis when implementing video for cold calling outreach, account management, customer service, live streaming, video outreach. There is so many possibilities and capabilities for yourself in the virtual world. However, many are unable to succeed and break through this market because they don't look professional. They look like they just opened up their laptop and started making cold calling. And the reason why many don't like the virtual world and virtual events is because the experience.
What's up, Christine? I see you, baby. Thank you for joining in. Whoa, voice crack.
This seminar, I'm going to be telling you and teaching you how we can synchronize face-to-face communication as close as possible, as if we were in the exact same room. I'm the founder of a company called MicroStudio. MicroStudio is a podcast in a bag. So when it's time to go, ladies and gentlemen, all you need to do is grab your MicroStudio. We have starter kits that's going to give you the exact equipment that you need when going through this presentation. However, I want you to know this training is not going to be talking to you exactly about what equipment you need. This is going to be giving you the theory and the implementation. So no matter what equipment you have, you can use these same strategies that I use on a day-to-day basis to help you become virtually professional. I want to welcome you into GB3 Studios. This is 2 years of reinvesting into myself. Welcome here. And this is because I've had so much success with video and video outreach that I wanted to put myself in a position where I can train and I can teach others this exact same methodology, but I didn't want to do it like everybody else. I wanted to separate myself as a sales trainer from every other sales trainer that you see on the market today. And this is what you're going to get throughout this whole training. You're going to get a better understanding of the quality that I bring for my clientele and a little bit of the energy that I bring as a sales trainer. So you'll notice here, we got sweet baby Juno. Juno's my little office manager. She's a little sweetheart. She's with me all the time. And if you watch my live streams and exclusive seminars, you'll be able to get recognized and really enjoy Juno's company as I do also. So welcome to the studio. Sit back, relax. You can see in the guest chair, this is a MicroStudio. Again, MicroStudio, it's a podcast in a bag. This is giving you as a remote producer, a traveling professional, an opportunity to take all this equipment that we've been given over the last 2 years and put it in a nice, compactable, protective case so you don't have to worry about your newest investment getting damaged when you're traveling around. So before we get into this, I obviously want to talk to you about what virtual professionalism means to me. Virtual professionalism means showing up the way I would expect to in video or as if I was in a boardroom meeting. I take pride in my personal brand, and I want to teach everybody that you should take pride in your personal brand too, because it's going to open up more doors for you than you ever thought imaginable. Many enjoy Zoom meetings with me. Many tell me how much of an enjoyable experience working with me in a virtual setting is. And that's put me in a position where I can not only shorten my sales cycles, I can conduct more meetings. I don't have to spend so much more windshield time traveling from meeting to meeting. And yes, if I get a no-show on the appointments, I don't feel like my time has been wasted. I want everybody to understand, virtual professionalism to me has 3 pillars. And before we get into these 3 pillars, I want to go down to, let's go to the Coach's Corner, and I'm going to walk you through these actual 3 pillars. So welcome over here. Welcome to the Coach's Corner. So of course, I've written this down here. Virtual professionalism has 3 pillars. And by the end of this course and by the end of this whole virtual seminar, you're going to be able to understand and master these 3 pillars. And you're going to be able to implement these 3 pillars every single meeting that you go into, so you can wow your clients. You can separate yourself from your competitors, and you can start winning more deals. Yes, that's right. So virtual professionalism has 3 pillars. The very first pillar that I'm going to be going into is audio. If you're able to understand audio, you do have one of the 3 pillars to virtual professionalism. Now listen, you need to understand and master all 3, because what happens with the tripod if one leg is a little bit weaker than the other ones? You get a little wobbly, right? So it's important. This seminar is going to teach you the foundation you need to know to ensure that your tripod is sturdy and firm and is not going anywhere. So the first one is audio. The second one I want to talk to everybody about is visual. So clear, you can see a diamond in your tooth. That's how clear we want to present ourselves to our clientele. So we have audio, we have visual, and the last tripod is, of course, lighting. There we have it, the 3 pillars. We got audio, visual, and lighting, and this is exactly what this seminar is going to teach you, all about that, and we're going to get into it. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, let's switch you back over here. Make sure you write it down, because we're going to be diving you into this. We have a 2-part series with this seminar. We're going to do it up here in GB3 Studios, where I'm going to teach you a lot of the theoretical of why we do this and why this is such an important factor. And then we're actually going to go down to the kitchen table to start the implementation process. And the reason why I want to do that is because 5 years ago, as an outside sales executive, I started at the kitchen table. Every single day I would pack up and I would unpack my workstation and set it up at the kitchen table. And because of that commitment and that dedication, that gave me an opportunity where I can invest in a home studio, where I can conduct these trainings on a day-to-day basis. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to your virtual sales checklist, your virtual event checklist. I'm your instructor, Garen Blaney. And of course, what we're going to be doing in this virtual event checklist is you've been given a PDF of your virtual event checklist. And if you do enjoy this seminar, and by the end of this seminar, if you would like a hard copy of your virtual event checklist, feel free to send an email to info@GarenBlaney.com, and I will be sure to have my team send you this exact same virtual event checklist. We will print it off for you as a hard copy. It'll be laminated, and of course, it's going to come in a beautiful case for you to ensure you can take this on the go. And you can put this also in your MicroStudio. So this is how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. What is the virtual event checklist, you ask? Well, that's a really, really good question. We'll get into it. So this whole seminar is going to be talking you through 10 steps. These 10 steps, and not in any particular order: physical appearance. Many don't like going on video because they don't feel confident with how they look, and that's okay. And we're going to teach you some methodologies and some strategies that you can start to implement, so you can highlight features you're comfortable with, low light features you maybe not be so comfortable with. So when you go into your virtual meetings, you know how you look and you can focus on the client, and you don't have to keep staring at yourself anymore, right? So we're going to go through physical appearance, of course, confirming the internet connection. When you work in the virtual world, this is extremely important to understand, and what things to look for when you're preparing for your meeting on the internet connection. And of course, confirming your power and battery. You can only go so far if you don't have enough power and battery. So confirming that before you go into the meetings. And of course, we're going to be talking to you about camera settings with your intro starter kit. of your MicroStudio kit, there are going to be simple factors as far as settings that you can go into. However, if you are wanting to invest in the more advanced MicroStudio setups, there will be digital courses and trainings provided for you to ensure that your camera settings are right. You can also have our team at MicroStudio pre-configure these settings for you, so when it arrives at your house, your camera is all ready to go. So confirming camera settings, audio settings, right? Virtual professionalism. We got audio, we got visual, of course. Then we're going to be going into lighting, confirming lighting, how to implement lighting on a day-to-day basis in any situation. If you have natural light, if you have artificial light. More light does not mean a better picture, but we'll get into that. And of course, we're going to talk to you about your background settings, what you need to look for when setting up the background if you're not in a position where you can have a green screen like you're seeing behind me today. And of course, after we confirm that, confirming your platform. There's so many event platforms that we can dive into, and it's your duty as a virtual professional to understand these platforms, how to use them effectively so your clients and your audience are having an enjoyable experience. After we understand your platform, background noise. Working from home is hard. Listening to background noise in a virtual meeting is harder. We're going to talk to you about things that you need to talk about to your audience and clients if you are going to experience any sort of background noise, and some strategies of what we can implement to avoid these embarrassing moments of the background noise. And of course, your event planner. No matter if you're going into a virtual meeting, a live seminar, a live stream, you will be provided with an event planner. And of course, when you have your virtual event checklist, you will be provided with your event show notes, so you can take notes and make sure that when you go into your meetings, you have all of your notes ready, everything good to go. So when you're running your show, it's just a matter of having a couple quick reminders. And then of course, you can go into that later on. I'm very, very excited for this, and this is your virtual event checklist. Now, before we dive into this in GB3 Studios, I'm going to send you down to the kitchen. We're going to talk to you a little bit more about MicroStudio, how we're going to assemble things, and then what we're going to do is after that, we're going to get you come back up, and then we're going to dive into confirming your power and battery. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited. Welcome to your virtual event checklist. I'm your instructor, Garen Belaney. Let's get into it. I'm going to get ready. We'll send you downstairs, and we'll see you in a little bit here. Talk to you soon. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome down to the kitchen table. I imagine Garen up in GB3 Studios sent you down here. Okay, not a problem. I was expecting that, as I understand when you're learning up in the studio, it can be a little bit hard to relate, as not many have an opportunity to be in that situation. So all of the courses, when you work with us, is of course we're going to be talking about the theory of why we should be doing all this, and then of course we're going to send you down here and we're going to be discussing the actual implementation of your virtual event checklist. The reason why I want to bring you down here is because it's more relatable to my clients. This is exactly where I started my virtual professional journey, right here. This exact same kitchen table. However, what you're looking at right now is my MicroStudio. My MicroStudio is a podcast in a bag, and I don't want to dive into that right now, simply because this workshop is not talking to you in depth about the equipment that I use when I'm going into virtual meetings, or any virtual event for that matter. This workshop is going to be talking to you about exactly the step-by-step process I go through as far as putting myself in the best possible position to be successful. 2 years ago, I created the virtual sales checklist. This is a checklist that I go through every single meeting to ensure that I'm putting myself in that position to be successful. I understand that could limit any sort of issues that come when using technology, as I can understand when you start implementing all this technology, how it can be intimidating. However, I want to assure you by the end of this course, you're going to have a step-by-step guideline on how to troubleshoot, what exactly to look for, and what you can do on a step-by-step process. So when you go into your virtual meeting, the technology is the last thing that you're concerned about. You're going to go into the meeting understanding who your audience is, what the purpose of this meeting or this event is going to be, and then you can put yourself in a position where you're demonstrating your best of your ability and showing up your best version of yourself in the virtual world. So before we get into MicroStudio and before we get into this checklist, you couldn't have come at a better time. In about an hour, I have an extremely important meeting with some shareholders talking about an investment opportunity with MicroStudio. So regardless, if you're a small client, a new client, a potential client, an existing client, every single time I go into a meeting, I'm going through this checklist to ensure that I'm providing you with the best possible experience when working with me in a virtual world. And of course, at this end of this workshop, you're going to be able to provide those clients and your clients with that exact same experience. So before we dive into MicroStudio, I want to go back to where it really started. And it didn't start with a MicroStudio, I assure you. It started with a $10 ring lamp and a $50 web camera, and it grew from there. So before we dive into this, I want to take you down to the island. I want to show you exactly what I started with and what I saw in this technology to give me the motivation to constantly reinvest back into myself to ensure that I'm staying ahead of the curve. And again, separating myself from my competitors. So before we dive into the virtual sales checklist for my end, your end, the virtual event checklist, let's head on over here. I'm going to show you the basics of what I started with so you can really appreciate where I am right now. So let's go take a quick look. All right, so of course, before we get into MicroStudio and everything else that I was involved in, I obviously wanted to show you where I started. And this is exactly where I started. I started recording videos just like this, sending outreach to my clientele, letting them know I appreciated their business and appreciated their help. But I saw this and I understand this wasn't right. Showing up like this was not virtually professional. So without any equipment, and unfortunately, a lot of people still are doing meetings with their laptop like this. The biggest issue with this laptop, and when you have it on the ground, is it's forcing a trajectory up. It makes it look like you're looking down, intimidating, right? We want to do virtual professionalism, show individuals that we're mimicking and we're trying to make this meeting as close to real life as possible. One thing you can do without having to buy any equipment that's going to drastically increase your virtual professionalism right away is grab yourself a box. Grab yourself some sort of box that you're able to put your laptop on. Putting your laptop onto a box immediately right away is going to give you a proper level, a proper way to be able to show your clientele that you care and you're trying without any equipment. People are not doing this, and it's such a simple task. So please grab yourself a box, grab yourself something where you can place your laptop on. So now you look level with your clientele. And then obviously, because I was having so much success showing up like this, I knew there was ways that we can improve. What way to do that? Well, let's add a web camera onto this. And this is exactly what got me to invest in this. A $50 web camera from Costco, and I placed it in a place for this. I plugged it in and I started running virtual events and virtual meetings with my web camera. So you can see drastically I'm gonna switch here from the laptop web camera to the actual $50 web camera. So you can see a little bit of a better picture. And this is the upgrade that I did. And I started getting more responses. Garen, your video is so clear. Your audio is so clear. What are you doing? I'm trying. That's all I'm doing. And this is what I was using for virtual meetings. And I said, I can start creating content doing this. So yes, I know, and I don't talk about this a lot, but I started incorporating my smartphone. And what's great is you can utilize your smartphone for a web camera now. And if you're in a position where you're not able to invest in a MicroStudio, invest in different equipment, use this. There's great software and there's great apps out there that are free that's going to allow you to use your smartphone from your web camera. And right away, I started creating content. The same principles applied when using this. Center of the frame, clear, concise, better picture. And of course, when you use your video, you can see, you can do 4K, you can do 60 frames a second. So what better way to do that than start creating a picture, right? Where I'm lined up and I'm center of where I'm supposed to be. And you can see from this camera right away, immediately. This is how I would create content. What's going on? My name is Garen Belaney and I'm an outside sales executive. I wanted to send you a quick video just to demonstrate my appreciation for you. And this was working amazing. And I figured there's got to be a better way to do better audio. How can I do that? Oh, my headset. So I grabbed my headset. This is very common. You grab your wireless earbuds, have them connect to your smartphone right away. And because I was winning more deals with this, and because I was winning more deals with just a simple web camera and a simple microphone, I knew that there was better ways for this. And this is where you find yourself in GB3 Studios. And this is where you find yourself now. It's a one-stop shop to invest in a MicroStudio, and you get all the equipment that you need in one box. Everything is there. Plug and play for you, knowing you're getting the best equipment, the best bang for your buck. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, because now you know where I've started. So let's get into a place where we can start appreciating where we're going moving forward. So let's head on over to MicroStudio and let's get down with this virtual event checklist. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the kitchen table. We're gonna be going through this step-by-step process of your virtual event checklist. I appreciate you taking the time to go watch myself at the island, because it really gives some perspective on the importance of showing up virtually professional and the importance of wanting to provide your clients with an experience when it comes to the technology. Again, we're talking about theory and implementation. I'll have another course talking about my top recommendation equipment and what to utilize if you're looking to upgrade. Now, we only got about an hour, so we got an extremely important checklist that I want to go through. And when I'm dealing with high-level executives, I'm scheduling myself at least minimum 20 minutes before every single meeting to go through this checklist. Of course, as you start to go through the checklist and get more comfortable with it, you'll be able to shave that time off excessively. However, when you're just starting out, give yourself enough time so you're not feeling panicked and rushed going into these meetings. It's extremely important to be able to be in a position where you're calm, where you're relaxed, because if you're showing anxiety, if you're showing stress, that's going to be able to relay that to the clients, and it's just not going to be a good experience for both. So first things first, when you're getting ready and you're going through your virtual sales checklist, give yourself a minimum 20 minutes time to prep for this meeting, so you're going in there calm, cool, and collective. One thing I need to note with your virtual event checklist, you'll notice this is not numbered this is not numbered, right? There's a reason why I didn't number this, and Tim S. Grover actually talks about this in both of his books. Each aspect on this checklist is as important as the other one. There's not a ranked 1 through 10. This is every single step needs to be desired. And what I do when going into meetings, I'm going to look through this checklist. I'm going to look at what are some of the situations that are going to take the longest. So when we go into this, immediately what I'm going to do is I'm going to confirm my power and battery. The reason why I want to confirm my power and battery immediately is because when you have lights, when you have your laptop, when you have technology, you're only as good as the technology when it works. The last thing you want to have happen to you is when you're in a virtual meeting, you have something, one of your lights goes out, even worse, your laptop dies. So it's extremely important going into the meeting. And when I say confirming power and battery, I mean checking every single plugin, every single item that runs on battery with your MicroStudio. Confirm that the power and the battery are intact. So I'm going to walk you through this process on my MicroStudio. What I currently have right now that's the most important when it comes to the batteries is, of course, I have my laptop. I need to ensure that my laptop is actually plugged in, and then of course I have my lights. I want to make sure that there's enough battery and power on my lights to be able to ensure it's going to last the whole meeting, and of course my camera. The camera setup in my MicroStudio is actually plugged into my laptop, so I won't have to worry about it going out of power. However, if you are in a situation where your mirrorless camera is running on battery, I highly recommend having a couple extra battery packs that are already charged, so you can have a quick swap if you need to. But when you invest in your MicroStudio, you will have an opportunity where your camera plugs directly into your laptop, so you don't have to have the stress and the anxiety when it comes to batteries. So let's get into what I'm going to check right away and exactly what I'm looking through when going through my MicroStudio. So the very first thing that I'm checking right away is my lights. How much time do I have left on my lights? The lights that I use in my MicroStudio are Lume Cube lights, and the reason why I like these lights is because you can see right there, it actually gives me a time on how much time I have left before my battery goes out. And it also gives me opportunities to check the white and warm lights, but we'll dive into that after. So when I'm looking at my lights, I see here at a 15% light, which is all I'm gonna need right now. I have about 2.5 hours left on my actual power for my lights. When I see that, I'm going to be very comfortable with that because I don't imagine that my meeting is going to be lasting anything longer than 2 hours. What's extremely important is when you have two lights, check both lights. So you can see on this one, it's a little bit less. I have only about 33 minutes left on this light. So immediately when I see that, what I'm going to do is I'm obviously going to power off this light, and I'm going to take it directly to my charging port to ensure when I go into this meeting, I'm not going to have one light going out on me. So that's a confirmation for the lights. I'll be right back. I'm going to go plug this in quickly. While you're waiting, please go ahead and check your lights to see if you do have power and how much time is left on the power. And if you don't have enough time, go ahead and plug your lights in right away, and then we'll go on to the next step, okay? So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back everybody. So I have all my lights and everything confirmed. So the next thing that I'm gonna wanna dive into is the next most important thing is my actual laptop. When you're going into a meeting, at any point to make sure your laptop is plugged in at all times. If it's one thing to have your lights die on you, it's another thing to actually have your laptop die on you when you're in the middle of a meeting, right? That's detrimental to any sort of proposition or proposal. I want to make a note. When you're checking your plugins, ensure that the plugin is connected accurately to the device and also accurately to the actual wall. I've had plenty of times where I just look directly at my laptop and I look, oh yeah, it's plugged into my laptop, only to find out it's actually not plugged into the wall. So it's extremely important to understand that the device is plugged in and the other end is plugged into an actual power source. So you know that power is coming through right away. And of course, I'm gonna double check that. I can see in the wall over here that it is actually plugged in. And then of course I can see right away that it's plugged into my device. So right away, I'm confident enough that my laptop is being charged, it's plugged into the wall, and it's plugged into the source, so I don't have to worry about that. At that point, I'm very confident right now that I've confirmed that all of my power opportunities are either being charged or they are charged. My computer is plugged into the device and the actual power source, and we can go ahead and move on. So what's really important and what's amazing is you can actually take your checklist, go to your virtual checklist, and go to your confirmed power and battery, and then you can give yourself a nice little check there, right there. So congratulations. You've just completed the step 1 of your virtual event checklist, confirming your power and battery. I'm gonna continue getting ready for this meeting. I'm gonna send you back up to GB3 Studios and we can talk about the next segment. And then of course, we'll see you in a little bit. So we'll talk to you soon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome up to GB3 Studios. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch where I started 2 years ago. And I wanted to bring that into the seminar because I want everybody to understand that when you're just starting out and you're just starting to getting the hanging of virtual professionalism and video marketing outreach, you don't have to buy all the expensive equipment at the start. I would highly recommend it because it's going to pay you dividends in the long run, but I want you to understand if you're watching this and you're just not in a position to be able to buy the higher caliber equipment, please don't fret, please don't be scared. I won plenty of deals using my basic web camera and the audio that was actually on that web camera. However, once I started seeing that it was working and I was having that success and I was completely bought into virtual professionalism, it was at that point I started upgrading my equipment, and that's where you see us all here today in GB3 Studios. And I want you to understand technology moves quick, ladies and gentlemen. So for me as an instructor, I have a commitment for everybody to try to stay ahead of the curve. The quality that I can produce. If I knew that 2 years ago, and if I knew there was some sort of magical place I could go to have a one click to get all of this equipment at my door, I would have done that because it would have saved me significantly more money. However, that's why I've created MicroStudio for you. So we're going to send you back down, but we're going to be talking about the very first check on your virtual event checklist. And I know what you see right now is the very first one. It's going to say physical appearance, but we're not going to be talking about that today. I'm going to be talking to you first is confirming your power and battery. The reason why I do this one, ladies and gentlemen, is because this is stuff that's going to take the longest to get in order. If you're low on battery, it's going to take some time for you to have to charge that equipment. So you want to check this stuff at the very beginning of your virtual event checklist. So if you find a light that's low on battery, if you find your laptop is low on battery, you're going to give yourself enough opportunity and enough time where you can charge all of this equipment so you don't find yourself scrambling 2 minutes before the meeting or the event, only to find out that one of your lights or both of your lights or all three of your lights are on low power. These are the things that you need to have set in place before you go into the meeting, so you don't have all of a sudden a light going out mid-meeting for you. So confirming your power and battery, the major important thing that I want everybody to understand when actually looking into this, when confirming your power and battery, is ensuring that your power is plugged in on both ends. Is it plugged into the device and the actual power source, or is it just plugged into the actual power source? This happens very frequent, and you need to ensure when you actually plug everything in to actually check if the charging symbol is on, if it's actually going through the process for you, right? And once you understand that, it'll give you a lot more confidence knowing that everything's getting charged up and it's ready to go. And the very last thing that I want to talk about is charging these items before the meetings. Especially when you're about to travel and you're about to pack up your MicroStudio, ensure all of your lights are already charged at 100%. Ensure that your laptop is charged at 100%. So if you're in the airport or if you have to make a prompt meeting where you might not be in a position to actually plug all of these in, you'll find yourself in a situation where all of your products and your items are actually charged up and ready to go. And a great example of what I have right now is I have one of my main lights actually being charged right now. And the reason why I did this is just for a demonstration, because before we got into this, I found out that this was quite low on battery, so I needed to charge it ahead of time. And what you're going to see here, this is actually Elgato, one of Elgato's newest key lights. This actually comes in your MicroStudio starter kit, and this is a phenomenal light just as far as configuring and syncing up with your actual laptop and computer. You can use this from your phone, so you can actually adjust the brightness and adjust the temperature, all without having, you can actually do it all on your smartphone and all of your devices. So ensuring that everything is plugged in before your meetings, so you don't find yourself like me right now, mid-meeting, having to charge in a very important light to be able to cast a very good shadow at the coach's corner, right? So ensuring that it's all plugged in before your meetings is going to put you in a position where you're virtually professional, right, ladies and gentlemen? So what we're going to do, we're going to do a quick reminder. So we're going to switch it over to the coach's corner, of course. I'm going to put that light on that I just have charged so you can see me okay. And these are some of the main things that we want to talk about when you're confirming your power and battery, especially when you have your MicroStudio kit, right? There's going to be some important things. So when you have your MicroStudio kit, the two main features in that kit that's going to require power is going to be your 3 lights, okay? And of course your laptop. Your laptop is extremely important to have that. And those are the two main features you're gonna find within your MicroStudio. But if you're not using your MicroStudio right now, I have a lot of clients that actually run virtual events via their smartphone, right? So knowing your smartphone is plugged in. And if you are using your smartphone for any meetings, rather than having it charged and unplug, I would highly recommend keep it plugged in throughout the whole meeting. That's going to ensure that you're not going to have to worry about it going down, especially as notifications and everything else comes in. You're going to find that. So you have your lights, you're going to have your laptop, you're going to have your smartphone. When you have an advanced setup of your MicroStudio, when you have a mirrorless camera, your mirrorless camera has an option to where it can just run on battery. With your MicroStudio, when you invest in MicroStudio, it's going to come with a power source that plugs into your laptop, so you don't have to worry about being configured. However, you want to make sure your cameras are all plugged in, okay? Does your microphone need to be plugged in? Your audio, right? Do you see a resemblance here? There's your pillars for virtual professionalism, right? Your laptop and your smartphone, your camera. So confirming all of your power and battery before your meeting is going to give you that confidence that you need, right? So once we have that done, and only when we have that done, what we're going to be able to do, come along with me. Let's head on over here. We're going to be able to, obviously, with confidence, hit it with the big slap on it, confirming bow. Go grab yourself, confirming your power and battery. You can grab your virtual event checklist, and of course, please check that off. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a quick segment confirming your power and battery. As a recap, ensure that it's plugged into the device and the actual power source. Ensure that all your lights are plugged in. Ensure that your laptop is plugged in. If you're using a smartphone, keep that plugged in throughout the whole meeting. And of course, if you have any audio sources that are running on battery, ensure to check those to make sure that you're not cutting out. So what we're gonna be doing, hey, we got one checked off here. This is actually amazing. So what we're gonna be doing, I'm gonna get everything ready for the next segment. Let's send you back downstairs, and we're going to continue putting into the actual implementation of this when going into your virtual event checklist from the kitchen table. Let's get into it. Let's get down. We'll send you downstairs and we'll see you right away. Talk to you soon. All right, so welcome back, everybody. So we just went over power and battery. Everything is confirmed. We just talked about the theory of confirming our platform. Now I want to talk about the actual implementation of this. For me, this is probably the most important thing to go over, just because it might take a while. When we're talking about confirming platforms, we need to understand that updates need to be done. We need to understand how to maneuver through that platform, right? We talked about this up in the studio. We have Google Hangouts, we have Zoom, we have Microsoft Teams, we have Restream, we have OBS, we have all these different platforms. Are you a virtual professional that understands how to utilize all of these platforms? Make sure when you're sending out invitations to clients that you're sending them the platform that you're most comfortable with. But you need to be prepared, because there are some clients that might not use that platform, and it's up to you to have to cater to them. They shouldn't have to cater to you. So right away, when I'm going into this platform, I'm immediately going to be checking for the updates on my actual computer. Yes, your computer needs to be up to date, because if you're not updating your computer, you're gonna run into issues where there's lagging and there's glitching and there's crashing. Keep your products, keep your laptop up to date. There's two things that I look for immediately when using my laptop. So I'm going to go to my graphics card on my laptop, and I'm gonna ensure that my graphics card is up to date. Once everything on that is up to date, I'm immediately going to be going to the platform. I was on this earlier this morning and I realized that my Zoom needed to be updated.
right away, I'm going to update that plenty of time before the meeting, because sometimes updates can take a very long time. Right? So you want to ensure that's all up to date. I'd highly recommend even doing that the night beforehand. However, if you don't have time to do that, right after we confirm power and battery, immediately we're going to be going into that. And of course, we're going to go into the actual platform itself. I'm always going to log into my preferred platform right now to ensure that it's being registered properly. So of course today for this presentation with my clients, I like to use Restream. You stream, I stream, we all stream for Restream. It's a phenomenal opportunity to be able to expand and communicate with different platforms at once. However, I just have a handful of shareholders that I want to entertain and want to educate, so we're going to use this right away. So right away I'm going to be logging into Restream, and I just want to make sure there's no updates for Restream in itself. And of course I checked it. I'm going to enter into the studio, as you can see, for where I'm going to be running this event. And then the event right now, I'm going to confirm, I'm going to enter into the studio right away. And of course it's not prompting me to ask for any updates. Once I updated my laptop, once I updated the software for my computer and all the platforms that I'm going to be using, I'm going to sit here with confidence. And again, congratulations everybody. We're going to be able to go ahead and we're going to be able to confirm your platform and check off confirming your platform. What we're going to be doing once we have that set up, we're going to talk to you about the importance of running an event planner. So I'm going to be getting ready. It's important to be doing research on your clientele and just the importance of the meeting and what you're going to be going over. So I'm going to be writing that down. You're going to see this on your virtual event show notes in the package that you invested in. You're going to be able to have this, and you can print this off every single time to utilize this, as this is exactly what I used to be able to ensure that when I'm running a meeting, it runs smoothly, it's organized, and of course my audience knows exactly what to expect. So I'm going to send you back up to GB3 Studios, and we're going to talk about the theory of all of this, and then of course we're going to send you back down here. We're going to talk about the implementation. So we'll talk to you soon. When you're on your way up to GB3 Studios, feel free to grab a water, stay hydrated, stay relaxed, because we're just getting into this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Confirming your power and battery, done and done. Now it's time to go into the second most important thing that I feel on this list. Again, you'll notice in the last video, they're not ranked 1 to 10 because they're all important. However, there's an importance of prioritizing all of these sections because some things take longer than the other one. Power and battery typically can take the longest as far as getting everything in order. The second thing that takes the longest is confirming your platform. This by itself can cause a handful of difficulties for a virtual professional, because as we grow and as we move forward, there is so many different platforms that different clients want to use, that different clients prefer to use, different platforms that you prefer to use, so you have confidence. However, virtual professionals can use any single platform with ease, understanding how to share screens, understanding how to send invites. Are you able to mute the whole audience? Can you mute yourself effectively? All of these different companies have all of their different platforms, and they're used ever so slightly different. Why? Because everybody wants to be different while doing the exact same things, apparently, right? So let's get into this. Obviously, we want to dive into confirming your platform. How do you confirm your platform when we're in a world of so many different platforms? So of course, what we got, let's dive into this. We got Zoom, we got Google Hangouts, we got Microsoft Teams, we have OBS, we have StreamYard, we have Restream, we have Skype, we have WebEx. All of these different video platforms require different skill sets and different knowledge. So this may take some time, but we are in a position that you should have a really good understanding of your clients and what is a preferred method of a platform that you want to use. You know, we look at these are some really, really big names, but of course Zoom is always going to stand out as a leading provider. Microsoft Teams is always going to stand out, and of course Google Hangouts is always going to be a dominant force when it comes to video messaging, as they all are incorporated with their own settings. Now we dive into this. I want you as a virtual professional to pick your top 3 favorite. And I'll tell you why, because as a virtual professional, you need to let your clients know, hey, this is where I feel comfortable best. And because they are the viewers, they should have a general understanding. So picking your top 3 is going to give you the confidence that you need going into these meetings with knowing the proper information, but you need to understand that you have to have your client comfortable with those same platforms. If they're not comfortable with your top 3 platforms, it might be in your best interest to pick a different top 3. So knowing the general settings, I'm not telling you have to master the ins and outs right away. I highly recommend as you grow to continue to learn all of the different settings, but you just need to know the generalized settings. Now, what are these general settings? I want to talk, these simple things: sending invites, making adjustments to the meeting times within the software. How are you able to update the software on each of the platforms? How can you share screens? How can you send things through the chat? Do you know how to change the chat? Do you know how to change your name on the panel to something that's more concise and more respectable to your audience? These are little simple things that I talk about when confirming your platform. Then, of course, you want to ensure that all of your software tools are up to date. Anytime that I've had issues in virtual meetings when it comes to glitching and crashing, that's not having anything to do with the internet. It's because either my computer is not up to date or the software that I'm trying to use is not up to date. This is something that I check on a regular basis. And when I say regular, I say I check daily on my computer of what updates I need to do, because again, anytime I've had issues, it's always because my equipment is not up to date. So please ensure that all of your platforms and your software that you're using is up to date. You understand the general softwares. Again, right? Do you know where to go on these softwares to update these softwares? Do they need to be updated? Perhaps they update themselves on their own. Always, 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 always arrive early to your meetings. I talk about this before every meeting. I give myself at least 20 minutes. And I do this to not only bring my nerves down, but to be able to handle technical difficulties if they do arise. I want to give myself, I'm in the meeting 5 minutes beforehand. And what I'm doing is, we're going to get into the checklist, but it's talking about confirming the audio settings and the camera settings and confirming everything that can take 5 to 10 minutes. So when your meeting is ready to go or your event is ready to go, you have all of these things in place and done. So we're going to do this as a quick reminder. You already know what we're going to be doing. Let's head on over to the coach's corner quickly here, and we can talk about these things. So of course, understanding your platform and confirming your platform. My recommendation for this one, pick a top 3. Pick a top 3 of the platforms that you're most comfortable with. So when you give an option to your clientele, if your first option is not their first option and they might prefer a different option, let's hope it's in one of the 3. My top 3 as a live streamer and as a virtual professional, it's not Zoom and it's not Microsoft Teams. My top 3 and my very first option I'm choosing every time is Restream. For simplicity, I'll use Google Hangouts. And if all those fail, that's when I'm probably, let's do this. I'm going to be going into a Zoom. However, saying that doesn't mean I don't know how to use Google Hangouts, right? That doesn't mean I don't know how to use Microsoft Teams. I've been in enough virtual meetings enough that these are the top 5 that your clientele or they've got to be using. There might be a 6 of WebEx. However, WebEx is not a top priority for a lot of clienteles, and I can tell you that with confidence. So obviously, pick your top 3 platforms. Ensure that all of these are up to date. Ensure that your laptop is up to date.
So you don't have to worry about all of these things crashing and going down. And once you confirm your platforms, once you have an understanding on how to send proper invites, making events, sending invites, making adjustments to the invites, adjusting the times on the settings, there is a lot of things that you need to understand with the platform. So it's really important. And when you can go into these meetings and you can share a screen by snapping your fingers, and it's that fluid, and you can come back into the presentation and then you can go and share the screen again. When you can make these alterations and these maneuvers without having to grab your mouse and going, okay, just hang on a second. Okay, can you see the screen? These things you need to have understanding. You need to have the confidence when you click that button, and when you do it, it actually is showing the screen, and you know that, and you don't have to confirm that with the clientele. So understanding these, making sure the updates, and hey, there we go. Let's head back to the board here, because you know what we got to do with all of this stuff. Coming back here, confirming your platform. Give yourself a check on the confirmation of the platform on your virtual event checklist with confidence. And this is how we're going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Confirming the platform, done and done. Hey, this is baby steps, and it's the baby steps, and it's the little things that lead to little things that lead to big things, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to remember that. Let's head back downstairs. This is exciting. We're just getting started, but I hope you're finding this informative. Please, if you do have any questions after this seminar, do not hesitate to reach out, info@GarenBelaney.com. I'm happy to send you a customized video to ensure that you're finding value in this course. I'm going to continue to get ready up here. I'm going to send you back downstairs, and we're going to go into the next segment, and then we'll come back up here, and then we'll go over the theory of everything again. So we'll talk to y'all soon. Confirming the platform. Done and done. Let's get it down. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you'll be able to find the theory of an event planner informative. And we're getting into this. And even as an outside sales executive, I run event planners every single meeting. This just gives me an opportunity to do research on my audience, what their history is all about, maybe some trouble areas that I'm able to provide them a solution with. And then of course, as you can see, I am the producer of a show called the LinkedIn Wish List. I hosted and produced that show, and every single time I did my wish list, I ran this event planner, and this just gave me an opportunity to keep my show structured, because when you have a half hour and you have a 1 hour and you have clients and audiences that are going to sacrifice and take that time to join you, it's important to be able to stay organized and ensure you're just not bantering and going off on nothing. You want your audience to leave with something valuable, some information. So you can see right here with my LinkedIn wish list, constantly going over notes. And then even after meetings, I'm using the episode notes section in your virtual event show notes to be able to actually write down, hey, maybe where were some trouble areas in the meeting? Where did some things go wrong? What were some things that were right about the meeting? And if I'm in a position where I'm proposing a solution to a client, of course you're gonna wanna write down questions you maybe weren't able to answer, or maybe some important questions that you weren't even able to go over but you want to bring back for them, and having all of those notes. So it's extremely important to have this ready, available for you to write down. And I want you, when you're in a meeting and you're writing notes down, you need to let your audience and your client know, hey, I may be looking down, but I just want you to know I have my show notes here. I have my notepad. I'm just taking down some notes just so I don't forget it. I assure you that I'm still listening to you. This is extremely important when you're talking about virtual professionalism, because when you're in a virtual world and you're watching someone, and if they're looking down, it might come across as if, hey, you're on your phone, or you're not paying attention, you're not being attentive, which can come across as almost being arrogant. Not arrogant, but just showing respect. So letting your clients and your audience know, hey, I know it may not look like I'm paying attention, but I'm just writing down some notes so I don't forget it, is going to put you in a position where you're going to get that respect, you're going to get that opportunity where the client's going to understand that you are paying attention to them, and you don't have to worry about that. So of course, extremely important to go over your show notes, your event list, every single time, every single meeting, keep doing it. And of course, you can print this off. If you do want me to print some of these off and send them to your house as a hard copy, just feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to do that for you. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We can go. Another thing, another check. We can check it off with pride. We got that confirm your meeting plan done. The event plan is completed, it's checked off. Let's go back upstairs. We're gonna talk about the importance of internet connection, what to look for when you're actually going into internet connections, and then we'll come down here and of course we'll put it into the implementation. So stick around, we'll be right back. Go have some fun up in GB3 Studios and I'll be waiting for you when you come back down.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. I hope you're able to grab a water coming back up here because, hey, we want you to stay hydrated. We don't want you to be getting thirsty during this virtual seminar. Taking away all of the equipment, taking away all the fancy gear, taking away the 3 pillars just for a second to talk about the next checklist, your event planner. We hear this a lot. We hear this a lot in the virtual world, that it's not about the quality, although I'm going to disagree. It's not about the quality, it's about the message that you bring. It is important to have a message, but also to be able to bring the quality for the viewer experience, because there's nothing more virtually professional than going into your event or going into your meeting knowing what you're talking about, knowing a little bit more about your audience and doing your research on your clientele ahead of time so you can go in there looking like the professional that you are, providing the knowledge that you need and the solution that you want to bring your audience and your clients. Doing research before meetings is going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. However, when you're in that meeting and you're starting to get a positive response from your audience because you know what you're talking about and you've done your research and you're not just pulling stuff out of your hat to try to make conversations, that is virtually professional. That's going to get you the respect from your audience and your clients that you need without having to worry about all of the technology. However, once you have that done, it is imperative that you provide your audience with that enjoyable experience. And that's what you're going to be able to do when you invest into MicroStudio. But first, we need to get down with the actual event planner. Knowing this event planner, when I'm in sales, as a sales professional, if I'm trying to sell them a solution, I'm going to do research ahead of time, such as, have I communicated with them before? Did I have a meeting with them before? Have I ever outreached to them before? Do I know who the competitor is? Do I maybe know some sort of pain points that arose when I was talking to the gatekeeper? I'm going to be writing these things down. Do they have multiple locations? Right? Do you know who the actual decision maker is? Did the person who set the appointment with you tell you that they were the decision maker, but when you actually went to the company website, you found out they were just an administrative assistant? That is what's going to make you the virtual professional. If you're a show host, if you're putting on a live stream, are you energized? Are you engaged? Do you know the audience you're about to present to? Do you know the region of the world that they're located in? These are all going to be, again, little things lead to little things, lead to big things. So confirming your event planner. So again, doing your research. Depending on the size of the clientele and depending on the size of the actual audience, I'm going to take at least a half hour to do my due diligence on my clientele, because I know if I'm going into this meeting and I'm able to provide them informative answers and solutions to them right away, I'm going to get that respect and I'm going to get that acknowledgement. And on top of providing them with that premium experience that you get with MicroStudio, that is how I'm able to close sales cycles faster, because I've done my due diligence. I have answers to some of the questions that I may think that they need. Doing your research prior to the event is going to make you a virtual professional. Have conversation pieces available. Please note, When we go into the background section of this virtual seminar, we're going to be talking about an isolation piece. Please do not mistake your isolation piece with conversation pieces. When you're writing down your event planner, conversation pieces are items or topics that you can bring up with your audience to have a relatable conversation with. Does your audience member or does your potential clientele, do they like cars? Are they from the same home city that you're from? Did you both go to the same university? Perhaps you've been in the same industry for the same amount of years. Knowing these things is going to give you an opportunity when you get into a position where it's maybe a little uncomfortable and you don't know what to talk about. This is where your conversation pieces are going to be able to come in handy. So doing this within your research to be able to provide the conversation pieces. Please do not mistake the conversation pieces with your isolation piece for your backdrop. Although they can be used as both, but do not rely on just one. And we'll get into this. I know it sounds a little bit confusing with the isolation piece, but we will get into that, I assure you. Next thing that's extremely important is just have all of your materials available. You will know in the PDF of the virtual event checklist, you're going to get a show notes section. This is where I'm going to have all of my materials ready. Do you have your pen ready? Is it filled with ink? Do you have everything written down? Do you have a glass of water? Do you have all of these things? Did you go to the bathroom before the meeting? These are all the things that you want to have all of your materials available and ready to go, so you don't find yourself having to scramble for a pen or looking for a sticky note. Have them all there right then for you. Please, I encourage you, even though it says show notes, you can utilize these sections for sales meetings, for discovery calls. These are things that you're going to be able to write down for your clientele so you have stuff to take with you. I personally don't like going down the typing route because it can be noisy with the keyboards. It can be distracting when you're working in the virtual world. So I like to write things pen to paper. And then when I want to upload that into the actual software, the CRM, I just simply take a picture of the notes, upload it to my CRM, or if I'm feeling ambitious, I'll type it out, or I'll have one of our team members at MicroStudio type it into the CRM for our organization. So have all of your materials ready to go. Again, please utilize your show notes, okay? You're gonna find there's multiple sections here that you're gonna have. You're gonna have your event housekeeping items. You're gonna have an event topic and segments, pre-episode notes, post-episode notes, along with special recognition. I want everybody to understand that these show notes are designed for live streamers, but you can implement this for your virtual meetings. Just replace some of the words accordingly, but there are sections there where you can write down, and I have one of these printed off for every one of my clientele before. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have desire to get a hard copy of your virtual event checklist, please email info@garandbelaney.com and you will get a handful of pre-printed out show notes within your case. So if you do want a hard copy with this for you, I'm happy to send that to you with no issues at all. So I want you to utilize your show notes and utilize this every single meeting so you're staying organized and you have your materials ready. So of course, we're gonna head down. Let's do this. Let's head to the coach's corner quickly. We'll write this down because repetition is key, as this is a learning seminar. So let's get into this. We'll switch it over right away here and then here. So when you're understanding your event planner, research on your clientele. Who is your client? We can go through the 5 W's, right? Who's the client? What does the client do? Where is the client? Who, what, when, where, why, when? When do you want to get the deal done? When do you want to have the meeting? Who, what, when, where, why, how? 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I missing? Who, what, when, where? Of course, why? Why are we having this meeting? Okay. And of course, you can get your how to get these meetings, understanding your event planner, do your research, Google, ask your clientele, ask coworkers if they maybe worked with this client before, or just understanding your audience and where in the region that they're looking for. So having your event planner done, please use your show notes. Okay.
every single time. And then have your materials ready. Materials ready, pen, paper, ready to go, water close by. Keeping yourself organized and confident so you're not moving back and forth all the time doing that thing. Having your materials ready, show notes ready, doing your research ahead of time is going to show you as the informative influencer and the educator in that next meeting. So hey, you follow these, and when you can confirm with confidence your event planner, let's head on down to the green screen. With confidence, you already know, confirming your event planner. Bow. Bow how you like me now. Check it off on your checklist. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about a quarter way through this thing. And as you start to do this more and more, it's going to be becoming more comfortable with you. It's going to go a lot quicker, and it's not going to take so much time, but it's important when you're just starting this out to go through all of these steps clearly, with intention and with purpose. Because once you do these things ahead of time, because your body is trained and in your head, you know you're going through these checklists, you're going to be going into this meeting, no problem, with the utmost confidence that you need. And especially the hardest thing virtual professionals can do is transfer energy through technology. And this is one thing that I strive for every single day, is being able to have my clients feel my energy and feel my passion through technology, because this is why people like face-to-face so much more. You can feel the facial mannerisms. You can see if they're intrigued. You can see if they're toned off a bit. You get more senses. When we talk about the sixth sense with sales, you have all of these senses when you're face-to-face. Can you do this in the virtual meeting? Can you bring that passion and that energy through the camera so your client feels that? We buy off emotion, but we justify it with logic. So ensure that you're bringing that emotion for your clientele, and you have that with your event planner. Check that off with confidence. Enjoy your water. I'm sending you back downstairs for the next segment. I'm going to be getting things ready here. Hey, welcome to Virtual Professionalism. We're almost there. Let's get down into it. All right, welcome back, everybody. So of course, internet connection, as you can see, is extremely important. And if you're up in a situation up in GB3 Studios and you're able to have hardwired connection and you're able to be really close to the modem, that's all great and that's all fun and games. In this situation, I'm far away from the modem. I don't have an opportunity to be hardwired. I need to rely on my wireless connection. So it's extremely important to ensure when you're connecting to your wireless internet that you're connecting to the strongest internet connection possible. Hear me out. I say this because when I actually use my wireless modem, it gives me an option to use the wireless at a 2.4 or the wireless 5G. There are some times where my computer automatically connects to the lower internet connection. So it's extremely important before you go into your meetings, even though it says you're connected to the wireless internet, ensure that you're connected to the highest possible internet connection that you have. In my case, I'm able to connect to my 5G wireless network, so I'm very confident with that. The next thing, if you are in a position where you can only be on a wireless connection, all of your devices that run on wireless, right when you go into the meeting, disconnect any other device that may be on the bandwidth of that wireless connection. The way you can limit any sort of glitching and lagging is just taking away any other opportunity and any other connections that might be hogging up that bandwidth, right? Have your laptop on the wireless internet, eliminate any other option or any other device that may be consuming the bandwidth, and you're going to put yourself in a position where you're eliminating any sort of opportunity for a lag or a malfunction mid-meeting. Next, it's extremely important to do a speed test. What is an internet speed test? An internet speed test is going to give you an opportunity to demonstrate the strength of your internet so you can understand what kind of quality stream or virtual event you can run. When we were up in GB3 Studios, it gave us a range between 3 megabytes per second and 7 megabytes per second. So if you're only pumping in around the 3 megabytes per second, I'd highly recommend to run your stream or your virtual event at a 720 pixelation. If you're pumping those higher numbers, if you're in the 6 to 7 range, be very, very confident that you can run at a 1080p 30 frame per second stream or virtual event, which if you've been watching my content, you understand how important that is for me. All you need to do to run a speed test, simply go to Google, you type in speed test on the search engine. It's going to give you an opportunity right away to run that speed test. Simply click it. It's going to do everything right then and there for you. So during this demonstration right now, my official download speed is coming in at around 274 for the download speed, which is not of as crazy importance. It's the upload speed you need to be mindful of. So configuring so we got a 6.7 upload speed based on this configuration. So now I know that I can go into this stream and I'm confident that I can run a 1080p 30 frames per second stream. And that's all there is to it for checking your internet connection. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your virtual event checklist, grab your marker, and of course, you go ahead and give yourself a big old check for internet connection. We're halfway through this virtual sales checklist. I'm getting really excited to be going into this meeting because as I start to check things off, I start to get more confident. I start to get more excited because I'm putting myself in the best possible position to be successful. All right, so you're ready to go. You got your internet connection confirmed. You got your platform confirmed. You got your power and battery confirmed. Now it's going to be talking about how we can tighten up the visual aspects of this stream and this virtual event. Of course, we're going to go up to GB3 Studios. We're going to talk about the theory of your backdrop. Yes, I'm talking about this backdrop. How are we going to stage this so your clients and your audience have a great experience and visually have a great experience? So let's head up and talk about the theory of it. I'm going to get my backdrop ready and I'm going to talk to you about how I'm setting up my backdrop and some key important factors to look at when you're establishing a backdrop for your home studio. So let's head upstairs. We'll see you in a little bit here and we'll talk about your backdrop.
All right, welcome back. This section, and I want to hold my breath on this a little bit because I don't want to say it's the most important, but let's dive into internet connection. If you don't have any sort of internet connection or cellular connection, there's no virtual event. So pretty imperative to put some emphasis in this to understand some of the terminology and understand why this is important and what we need to look for to understand what type of output of an event or a live stream that we can do. The first terminology I want to talk to you about is pixelation. Pixelation is how clear the video can be during an event. Very typical and very standard for streaming platforms. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Hangout are typically outputting 720 pixelations. What you're watching right now is 1080p pixelations. And most of these platforms can provide that for you, but you do have to pay extra to be able to do that. But there's no sense in even wanting to output a 1080p pixelation if you don't have the proper equipment or the proper machine, aka computer, to be able to output that. Because what you're going to be able to find is if you're trying to output too big of a picture and your machine's not able to handle that processing power, you're gonna start glitching out and phasing out, and that's not an enjoyable experience for anybody, because now you're putting yourself in a position where your audience has to put the words in your mouth for you, or try to piece together the message that you're going to say, all because you didn't go through the virtual event checklist of the internet. So understanding your internet connection. Up here in GB3 Studios, everything is hardwired. No matter what, whether it's your camera,
It's your audio, it's your internet, it's your lighting. Everything in this studio is hardwired. I always try to stay away from wireless connection or wireless anything when going into my virtual events, because wireless just brings a whole new dynamic and a whole new opportunity for mistakes and errors to happen. So having hardwired connection, everything is going to give you a position where you're comfortable and you're not relying on a Bluetooth connection. One of my clients would always use their AirPods, and I used to use my AirPods. We saw this at the very beginning of the seminar. Going into a big meeting, went through the checklist, the headphones were working. Went into the meeting, 5 minutes later, the headphones were not working. The Bluetooth connection wasn't working for whatever reason. So now you're in an awkward situation where you're having to backpedal and having to troubleshoot during the meeting when you're wasting your audience's time. So try to keep everything hardwired. Keep your internet connection to your computer hardwired at most points. Listen, when we send you downstairs, we're going to talk about, because downstairs I was not in a position to be able to have hardwired connection. I had to rely on wireless connection. And that's not a bad thing. You can still produce and perform a high caliber event without having a hardwired connection, but there are some strategies that you need to implement, and there's some methodologies that you need to follow, and we'll go dive into that more when we're at the kitchen table. So ensure that your hardwired internet connection. Limit your devices that's on the wireless network. Your cell phone, is your iPad, is any device that you're not using when you go into that virtual meeting, are they using bandwidth on the wireless internet? Because the more devices you have on your wireless internet, the more strain you're putting on your connection. Every time I go into a virtual meeting, I'm turning my wireless phone off, taking it off the wireless internet. I'm taking my iPad off the wireless internet. I'm doing everything that I need to do to ensure that when I'm using the wireless internet, it's connected to my laptop and my laptop only, and it's not trying to communicate with any other device in the vicinity. So limit your devices that you have on your wireless connection when you're going into these meetings. I had one of my clients actually do a live stream with their cellular data. That in itself blew my mind, because that is something I would never even try to attempt, let alone go into a virtual meeting, but it worked out great for them. They understood that they couldn't produce a high 1080p picture when going onto a cellular data, so they brought the pixelations down to a 720, so they didn't find that their phone was overloading with all of that. Internet speed test. This is a very simple thing that you can do by going to Google and just typing in internet speed test. This is going to give you an opportunity in the setting and the situation you're in at that point, where and how much of your upload speed can you do. Upload speed is more important than your download speed when you're producing a virtual event, because you're uploading all of your information to everybody else. You're not downloading any information. So it's important to do that. So all you got to do is, the ideal upload speeds, obviously, you want to range from 3 to 7 megabytes per second. 3, if you're pumping in 3 on your internet connection, you cannot be doing any sort of 1080p stream. If you're in the 7 and above, you can with the most confidence go in there with the 1080p stream, and even at a 60 frame per second rate. So frames per second is another thing that we need to be mindful of. You're watching this stream right now on a 60 frame per second unit. That's how it's going to give you the most fluid. And with your MicroStudio kit, the starter kit is going to give you a 1080p 60 frames per second webcam. This is extremely important because so many brands market 1080p and 4K, and then when you actually go into it, it's only 4K at 30 frames per second, which is not good. I would much rather take a 60 frames per second at a lower pixelation, say a 1080p at 60 frames per second, than having a 4K at 30 frames per second. Okay? Frames per second gives you that fluidity, that smoothness that it's able to pick up, because it's picking up double the amount of pixelation or pictures per second than the 30 frames per second. So going into that, conducting your download speed 3.2, 7.4, extremely important. Please be mindful of that and do that every single time. So of course, we'll do another quick recap. Let's head on over to the coach's corner quickly here. Head on over here. So of course, when you're confirming your internet connection at all purposes of time, if you're able to, please have it hardwired. Hardwired connection. If you can't have it hardwired, please ensure that your laptop is as close to the modem or the router as possible. Please do not have any separation of floors if you're able to. And of course, you're going to limit your devices. Okay, so if your iPad's just sitting there and it's consuming wireless, but you don't need it at that point, turn the wireless off on your iPad, for example, okay? On your smartphones and everything like that too. And then every single time when you're traveling or you're about to go in there, you can just do your speed test. This is a simple Google search. Then you search speed test, and it gives you an output of 3 to 7. 7 is going to give you that 1080p that you can be comfortable with. If you're closer to a 3, maybe bump that down to 720. And I want you to understand 720 pixelations is not it's not bad. You're still going to have an okay picture and it's going to look good. However, when you're up in GB3 Studios, when you're investing in MicroStudio, MicroStudio is not a budget bag. You have a starter kit, and the starter kit is going to give you the minimum requirements that I feel, based on the technology over the last 2 years, that's going to give you the longevity that you need without having to upgrade in 2 or 3 years. So it's an investment, it's not a purchase, okay? Please keep mindful of that. When you get your MicroStudio, you will be doing 1080p meetings. I assure you with that, depending on your internet connection, but your equipment is gonna be capable to do that, right? Boom, internet connection, hardwired, limit your devices, get that speed test going in. And at that point, you know what we can do. Let's go do it. We already gotta hit it with it. And of course, confirming it, get another one, pow, pow. Confirm your internet connection. Ensure you do this on your virtual event checklist, of course. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're having a lot of fun. This is great being your instructor, and I take great pride into being able to teach you and educate you on becoming virtually professional. And we're getting there. We got the internet connection. Let's head back downstairs. Let's go over the actual practicality of the internet connection and what you need to do when you're using your MicroStudio, when going into your virtual events, to be mindful of. And then of course we'll head back up here and we'll talk more about the virtual event checklist. So we'll see you soon. Have some fun and enjoy yourself. We'll talk to you soon. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the fun part. This is the opportunity where we're able to utilize the backdrop. We're able to have something where you can have some fun with this. Yes, there are some general guidelines that I'm going to want to talk to you about. However, I want you to use your creativity when it comes to this kind of stuff, because your backdrop is your opportunity to let your audience and your clients know who you are as a person, what you like, what are some of your passions, what are some hobbies, in order to be able to find somewhere where they can relate with you with. This is the most important part when you're using your backdrop, is you want your backdrop to be relatable to your audience. This is where it's going to be extremely important when you do your background check and when you utilize your event planner. Maybe make some notes if your audience, maybe your audience like cars. My audience right now, they happen to like plants, so I set up my area to have some plants so I can have some general conversations with them around that. When we're up in GB3 Studios, I have my basketball as my isolation piece. So when I sit down with my clients, I actually have my basketball in my backdrop, and every single time I'm always going to get questions about who signed the basketball, what's the basketball all about, and I have that there because it's something that I can talk a lot about, something that I'm extremely passionate about. So I want you to be mindful when you are setting up your backdrop that it's tasteful, no matter what region you're in, right? No political stance. Do not have your sales numbers up there. Do not have anything that may be cause of concern. You can see here in this section, let's move over to the Restream section. So hey, this is all being recorded on Restream right now. Ustream, iStream We all stream for restream. So of course right now you can see my backdrop. I have my plans put in place. I have a little welcome sign to let you know, hey, I'm your instructor, to let you know what's going on. So I think that is really good. However, just be mindful of what you're putting in that actual word board so you don't have to worry about having awkward situations, right? And of course, when I'm looking at my backdrop right now, I'm viewing all of this through my Restream camera, or the camera that I'm going to be using for the meeting. Now, it's extremely important to take a look at the backdrop to make sure everything is even. I can see right now, hey, these bowls right here, they're a little bit uneven. This is not going to be a concern for your audience. Again, this is virtual professionalism. I'm Garen, I'm your instructor, and I'm going to notice these things. So it's important to be mindful of these kind of things to make it, again, quick adjustment to make it visually appealing, and then I'm centered in the frame here. Make sure to avoid it being too busy. You don't want your backdrop to be extremely busy to where it's overwhelming and you feel your clients almost have a claustrophobic feeling. My backdrop right now, I would probably put myself in a category where there's maybe too many things going on. However, the way I have them shelved out, you have the white backdrop behind it, so it's almost like each square is its own little art work, an art piece. So be mindful of that when you're setting up your backdrop. Right now, I'm very happy with the way my backdrop would be. We're going to be talking about lighting in a little bit here, but I want you to be mindful of that little salt lamp I have there. There's a reason why I have a salt lamp there, and we're going to talk about this. It's going to be the 3-point lighting system. We won't dive into that right now, of course, because we are talking about the background settings. So again, make sure it's mindful, make sure it says who you are. Be creative with it, right? Don't feel that this is a strict guideline. Just be mindful of it, and just have yourself in a position where you're not going to be putting yourself in an awkward situation when it comes to your backdrop. Have fun with it, be creative with it. There we go. I'm confident. I hope you're confident enough to actually check off this thing. So there we go. My backdrop is confirmed. Is yours? Let me know. I'm really excited for this. So guess what? we're about halfway through now of the actual virtual sales checklist. We just went in through the visual. Now we're going to dive back into a little bit of the actual technical. So we're going to go upstairs. We're going to talk about the camera settings. This is going to be extremely important when going into your virtual meeting. And we're going to record this all through Restream. So I'm going to walk you through step by step of what I'm actually doing when it comes to the camera settings. This is very important because when you're dealing with camera settings, you're going to be dealing with exposure, you're going to be dealing with different contrast depending on the day that we're going into. So we're going to have to be really mindful of this. So you can see even in this example, you don't have to worry about different cast and shadows and everything like that. So we're going to have yourself preset, so you're not having to make any sort of alterations in the meeting. You already know what to do. Let's head up to GB3 Studios. Let's talk quickly about the camera settings. And then of course, we're going to come down and we're going to start implementing that strategy. So let's go ahead up there.
All right, we're going to be diving into something that's extremely fun because it's going to be giving you an opportunity to really express your personality and give your audience an opportunity to relate with you. We talked a lot about how we wanted to create opportunities and different segments and how we relate with our clientele. We haven't really dove into how we get our clientele to relate with us. And this is where the backdrop is going to be an amazing opportunity for you to be able to display this. And I don't want to put too many guidelines on the backdrop because I think this is a great way for you to be creative with it. For example, my backdrop for countless times over the last 2 years was my basketball, and it still is to this day. This is the isolation piece that I was talking about. And we'll talk more about this when we're actually at the kitchen table, but an isolation piece is not the same as a conversation piece when we're going into the event planner. The isolation piece is one item that no matter what, something you're so passionate about, that you're so happy to talk about, and you can spark up a conversation and stories and just like that. That's what your isolation piece should be. For me, I grew up playing basketball. I love basketball. Basketball has taught me so many things as far as foundational responsibility, accountability that I bring in, day out of my professional career.
playing university collegiate level has given me that opportunity to exploit that on greater levels, and I bring that with me every single day. And that's where the basketball comes into place. But the basketball is not just a basketball, it's a very special basketball. It's signed by my favorite player as a child growing up, and this is a homecoming or a home welcoming gift for myself. And as you can see, I love talking about it, and I can talk countless hours about it because I love basketball and I love diving into those things. And these are great opportunities to take away any sort of awkwardness when it comes to virtual events. If you run out of things to talk about, if your clients don't know what to talk about, very often I'm going to get a question saying, hey, what's the basketball in the backdrop all about? And that's what your isolation piece is going to be about. Okay, so let's dive into the importance of the backdrop as we get into this, of course. So confirming the backdrop, I want you to be mindful as a virtual professional, you need to keep your backdrop professional and subtle. Don't feel that you need to be claustrophobic. I've had a few clients where their backdrop is filled with a bunch of books, and it's okay, but it creates a very small and very condensed look to it. So these are very important things to be mindful of. Professional, I don't want you to be having any sort of sales goals, any sort of terminology in the backdrop that may cause some sort of just uncomfortableness when it comes. I was in a situation, for example, where the client had top targets to close for 2021, and they had all of the company's logos in their backdrop, and I love that, and we talk about this downstairs. However, as a viewer, that makes me quite uncomfortable because I'm looking at that individual as, oh, that's just a salesperson, right? It's no longer Garen Blaine to the human. It's just, oh, here's another sales guy. And this is what happens when you're in virtual events. You want to humanize yourself to your audience so they can relate with you and they can have a more personal connection with you as the host. So professional and subtle is my highest recommendation when going into that. And I'm going to let you run all out with that. I'm not going to give too many more guidelines with that. If you are unable to create a professional backdrop, you need to be getting a green screen, a virtual backdrop, something where you can hide your surroundings, where if you're in a place where you're not comfortable with your backdrop, rather than just using the virtual backdrop, because when you use just the virtual backdrop, it's still going to give you the phrase in your body. It's gonna still see through as you move. We've all seen this stuff before. Investing in a high quality green screen is going to give you that opportunity where you can be anywhere. You can be in your mom's basement. You can be in the bathroom. You can be in GB3 Studios. You can be in the library, and you look uniform. So if you are unable to be in a position where you have to use a virtual backdrop, I strongly recommend investing in a green screen. Again, Elgato is a phenomenal company to be able to get you the high quality green screens that you're looking for, so you can really use that virtual backdrop and it can really create that separation from you and the actual green screen. Please stay away from aggressively motion graphics and extremely bright colors. It's very hard for our brain to process what's going on when we're staring at something through a computer screen. What's even worse is if we have to stare at a backdrop that makes us dizzy or makes us queasy, or if it's filled with bright lights that makes us feel uncomfortable, right? These are the things, and I highly recommend anytime you use a virtual backdrop, use subtle colors, use darker colors, use minimal motion so you're not making your audience queasy and they can still focus on you. I highly recommend staying away from bright backdrops. Bright lights like this for long periods of time, you're going to give your audience a headache. It's very hard to constantly stare at white light and light backdrops for a long amount of time. When we talk about virtual professionalism, we want to synchronize human face-to-face contact as much as possible. And if you're causing strain on your audience because you're using a backdrop such as this, or you're having motion graphics such as that,
You're going to have them, they're going to disconnect from your presentation. They're not going to want to listen to you, and they're sure as heck not going to enjoy the experience. So please, you can see the difference. A very white backdrop to a very dark backdrop, and significantly easier to view on the eyes. So when you have darker backdrops, you can hold your clients and your audience attention for a little bit longer, right? Stay away from these, avoiding really, really bright backdrops, okay? So let's do it. Let's head on over to the coach's corner and let's go over a recap on this. All right, so let's get into this. Obviously, when we're talking about the backdrop, please, I don't want to harp too much on this because I want you to be creative with your backdrop. Let your audience know who you are. Set yourself up with some shelving units to be able to put some of your favorite pieces behind you. Find yourself that ISO piece, something that you're confident talking about, and something that you can allow your viewers and your audience to relate with you or bring up that conversation so they can relate with you, okay? Have that isolation piece. Please keep it professional, right? Be mindful of the region that you're presenting in, right? Even up in Canada, if I'm presenting to something down in the southern states, or if I'm across the pond in London, there's different things and different items that mean different things in different parts of regions. Okay, so I'm sure you can put two and two together. Be mindful of those kind of things so you're not in an awkward situation with that. Professional and subtle, right? You want to have a good backdrop, but you don't want the backdrop to take away from you. We're here to see you as the audience. We're here to see you as the host. I want to be able to look back, view your backdrop, find some things I can relate with, and then focus back onto you. Okay, so don't make it too busy. Don't make it too distracting, right? Avoid white lights and bright backdrops, sorry. And stay away from heavy motion, okay? I like motion. I think motion can be a good, especially for virtual backdrops, I think motion can be a very, very dynamic piece to bring in. However, if it's too fast and if it's too moody, you might make your audience sick. So please make sure if there is motion, it's extremely slow and it's extremely slight, right? ISO, professional and subtle. Don't use your white and backdrops. Do not, right? It's hard on the eyes, okay? And then of course you're gonna wanna avoid any sort of heavy motion. Listen, confirming your backdrop, have some fun with it. And please, I encourage you, if you set up your backdrop, send me an email, info@GarenBelaney.com. I would love to see your backdrop, and I'm happy to sit down with you in your home studio and give you any sort of customer recommendations that you may like. If you do have questions on what you want to add for your backdrop, if you think it's a good idea, if you don't think it's a good idea, feel free to reach out to me, info@GarenBelaney.com, and we can set something up accordingly. So we got it up in the coach's corner. Come on now, we got my favorite part, checking stuff off. Let's go do it now. So we doing this thing, and this is why we always take pride in professionalism, confirming the backdrop. Come on now, boom, pow. Poof. Woo! How you like me now? Confirming your background. You already got it now. And this is what really gets me excited about all this, because the more I check this off, the more I feel prepared and the more confident I'm going to feel going into my virtual meetings. And that confidence is going to relay with your audience, and that's what's going to help you deliver a more engaging presentation. Of course, when you're able to ask for the sale, you can shorten your sales cycle because you feel that confidence, your audience is going to feel that confidence, and you enjoy your backdrop. Hey, you already know how we're doing it. We're pumping through this thing. We're getting close to the end, but we're not there yet. I got to get some stuff configured up here. Let's go back down to the kitchen table. We're going to go over the next segment and of course come back up here and we're going to talk about the theory of it all. So we'll see you soon and we'll talk to you shortly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So we're going to be diving into camera settings, as this is a quick but extremely important task that you want to check before you go into every single meeting. So of course it really depends on the actual camera package that you chose when you invested in MicroStudio. I'm always going to be an advocate for demonstrating a mirrorless camera. If you do opt in for the face camera, the premium web camera,
you're going to have opportunities where there's actually going to be apps and softwares within your computer where you're going to be able to make the contrast, the lighting adjustments. In this case here, we're using the EOS Mark II camera, my favorite mirrorless camera hands down for demonstrating and showing up very, very nice in the virtual meeting. Let's take a quick look into the actual Restream camera, what's going on. So you're watching this through Restream. So right away, immediately, I'm very happy with the way this is actually set up as far as contrast, as far as lighting, how it's going to be highlighting features I'm confident with, and of course, maybe low lighting features that I'm maybe not so confident with. So I want you to be mindful of that when you are going through the camera settings. I want to give you a quick example of maybe some reason why the camera settings wouldn't be the same. So when I'm looking in the mirrorless camera, you can see there's a section here where it talks about your ISO. And you can actually move this forward and backwards, and I'll show you. You can see automatically when I slide the dial how overexposed and how, you see how slow this is, the shutter speed. Everything is really slow, and this might happen depending on how much light you have coming through. So it's extremely important to have these settings. I'm always going to recommend having these settings around the 100 to 125. Rule of thumb, keep it around 100, and it's going to give you that really clear and concise piece. So put it at the 100. And of course, you can see the adjustments there. For the most part, the camera settings are going to be plug and play. The majority of webcams that you're going to have is going to have auto settings and auto switching around. When you get to the more advanced stages, as you just seen in this explanation, you're able to really make the adjustments and have more of a manual exposure and a manual focus. I highly recommend using manual over automatic every single time because it just gives you more control. It gives you more ability to be able to capture the camera and capture the picture that you want. And another thing is if you're in an auto situation and the lighting changes throughout the meeting, it's going to constantly make these adjustments throughout the meeting, which can cause a little bit of a headache or cause issues for the viewer. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is not for you. This is for your audience and providing your clients with a superior experience. So these are the things that I go through every single meeting to make sure when I go up into my meeting, I don't have to worry about everything. So you already know. Camera settings, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Grab your virtual event checklist, give yourself a big old check mark with your camera settings. There you have it. Let's head back upstairs. We are almost complete, your virtual event checklist. We're going to be going over the importance of audio settings, what you need to be mindful when you're actually going into the audio settings. And then of course, we're going to come down here. We're going to go to the practicality of it. So let's head up to GB3 Studios and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right, we're back and we're going to be going. Very beautiful about implementing a mirrorless camera. However, it does come with significantly more settings when you do invest in that. So when you are choosing what package you want to go with, just be mindful there is going to be additional trainings when you go with the mirrorless camera section. When you don't have the mirrorless camera section, there's an amazing opportunities and there's different strategies that you can start implementing that's going to give you a better picture without having to physically actually upgrade the equipment. So I want to dive into that right now when we actually go into the camera settings itself. So confirm your camera settings on your virtual event checklist. The very first thing that I want everybody to be mindful is accurately positioning your camera. This is the most frustrating parts about going into virtual meetings with other individuals because it's such a simple process to do. We want to have ourselves face to face with each other. There's no more down here, all the way up here. There's no more me looking down on you. Let's look level, face to face with each other. So in confirming your camera setting height, I have to emphasize this on the positioning of the camera. You want to ideally, best case scenario, be in a position like myself, if you're sitting down, to be able to have torso up showing. This is going to give you in your audience an opportunity to be able to implement your hands when you're starting to have a conversation. When you're in the virtual world, giving an opportunity to demonstrate where your hands are is going to take away any sort of suspicion that's happening. Subliminally in the mind, we're always going to be mindful and wondering where somebody's hands are if we're not able to see them. So putting and positioning your cameras to, if you are talking, you have an opportunity where you can show and demonstrate your hands. This is going to bring subliminally, again, ease back in with your clients, so it's not looking for suspicious. And you need to start implementing proper camera positioning to be able to do so. The next thing that I really want to talk about is understanding exposure and contrast settings, color settings. We look at this picture right now and there's displaying that the web camera is on the laptop. We're getting away from that. I understand it's convenient, but there's no more putting the web camera on the laptop. And the reasoning for that is because when we go into these meetings, we put so much emphasis on having the camera straight, the camera aligned. But the minute we put it on our laptop, if we have to make an adjustment to our laptop screen, it's going to throw everything off. So let's get our cameras off of our laptop. So if we have to change the angle of the actual laptop, we don't have to worry about it affecting the cameras anymore. Being able to create an extremely dynamic picture. And you'll be getting this with your MicroStudio kit. Elgato has a software that we're going to be able to implement and put into your computer to be able to give you color and contrast settings. Most web cameras have this, but this allows you to have an opportunity to put more skin tone back into your skin, have colors pop more so you don't look so dull. And these are the two major things that I want to talk about camera settings just off the cusp of it. We'll talk more about it downstairs. But before we get into that, I want to show you the difference when it comes to actual color settings. So you can see here, I've configured color corrections and color coordinations on this camera you see here. So I'm going to do, this is without color correction, right? This is just plugging it in, and this is with color correction. See how drastic and how nice that is? And it's very, very subtle correction. So without color correction and with color correction. And that's something that I obviously want everybody to implement, and I will be bringing out digital educations and trainings of what we should be doing and implementing that. When you invest in your starter kit MicroStudio, you'll be able to get all this digital information and digital training so you can make these adjustments accordingly for yourself. Easy peasy. This is my favorite segment, but of course I want to keep it the most simple because it can be very difficult when going into that. So obviously let's go to the coach's corner. We can talk about the quick segments with doing this. So confirming our camera settings, of course, the main thing when we're dealing with just the high-end web camera, this is just going to be software features that we're going to be able to implement via your computer. When you invest in the MicroStudio Advanced package, that's going to come with a mirrorless camera. There's settings that's going to have to be taken place with the camera itself to be able to put out a high caliber picture. When you invest in MicroStudio, there'll be digital trainings where you can do these configurations yourself. However, there is opportunity to have the camera pre-configured for you when it's sending. So the main thing takeaway with camera settings, positioning. Okay, no more on laptop, please and thank you. Your MicroStudio is going to give you a kit where you can have your laptop. If you do have your web camera sitting on the actual monitor of your computer, you might not have to worry about this, but be mindful if you do make an adjustment with your monitor or your laptop screen, you're making an adjustment with your camera also. So we want to get away from that so you don't have to worry about anything. And then of course, understanding color correction. Color settings. And this is really important because when we're dealing with color settings in different lighting situations, okay? So if we're in a bright room, if we're in a situation where we can't handle or we can't manage the natural light, we're going to want to turn the brightness and the contrast down
to be able to supplement that. But if we're in a studio where we're able to control the actual lighting, we can have a lot more wiggle room when it comes to that kind of stuff. So understanding camera positioning, understand our color settings is all I want to talk to you guys about when it comes to the actual camera settings. We're going to dive into it more downstairs at the kitchen table. But this is all we had to do to check off that virtual event checklist for camera settings. So let's all head over there, because you all know how much I love to do this and how much this makes me happy. So everybody, make sure to grab your virtual event checklist, confirm your camera settings on there. There are going to be more digital trainings that are going to be released as we move on, talking about mirrorless cameras, how to pre-configure them, and this will be all available for you in the coming weeks and coming months. So there you have it. We're going to be talking about audio settings really quick, and of course lighting settings pretty quick, and then we're going to be shortly finishing up here on your virtual event checklist. So of course, without further ado, confirming your camera settings, done and done. That's the theory of it all, because the theory of the camera and creating a very dynamic picture is what's going to create the realism of a human being. This is how we're going to synchronize that face-to-face meeting feel in the virtual world, and that's having the best picture. So I appreciate that. Let's send you back downstairs. I know you're getting tired going up and going down, but exercise is important. Stay hydrated, stay informed, and ensure that you're taking notes using your show meeting notes. Again, if you do have any questions after this seminar, do not hesitate to reach out to me via LinkedIn or via email at info@garenbelaney.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to the theory of the camera settings, and two major and very important things to be mindful of when you're configuring your camera settings. I appreciate you. We'll see you pretty quick here. Talk to you soon. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So now we're going to be going over the actual audio settings. Audio settings is going to be a little bit more tedious and a little bit more important than the actual camera settings, because if you're going into a situation where you have a bad camera, you can live with it. If you're going in with bad audio, you're going to lose your clients, you're going to lose your audience right away, and it's very important to actually go into this, because this is one setting to when you go into the actual software. Because when you're looking at your MicroStudio, you have multiple microphones that you're unaware of. You have your microphone from your laptop. You have your microphone from your actual mirrorless camera. You have your microphone from your external microphone that you're using. So you go into a meeting and it's very deceiving, because you can check your audio settings and you can see the audio bar moving up and down as you see in the Restream package. So we'll see here when we're going into the Restream camera, you can see right away there's an audio input, and I currently have the audio input set properly. However, most times go up as a default, and look, the default right now is exactly what you see. However, the default actually might come from a different camera or a different microphone. So you think you're actually getting proper microphone and you're getting proper sounds. However, it's the wrong microphone. And then all of a sudden you're in the meeting and people are going to tell you, I can hear you, but I see you have a really nice microphone, but the sound doesn't match up. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? You're currently watching the Restream camera with just having the microphone in itself. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plug in this external microphone that would be attached to the camera so you can see the audio difference right away. So what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I currently plugged in the external microphone that's attached to the camera, so you can tell there's a significant difference when it comes to audio in itself. So it's really important to know which microphone that you're actually using. So right now, I'm going to plug this back in. We're going to head back to the Restream camera so you can see exactly what I'm testing when going into my next virtual event.
All right, so we're back into the Restream screen, and this is exactly what I'm going to be doing when I'm actually testing my microphone right now. So I'm going to be immediately going to the settings tab, and then I'm going to be immediately going to the audio tab. It's extremely important to know which microphone that you're going to be using. When you invest in MicroStudio, you're actually going to be given an audio interface, and this is an actual hardware that's going to allow you to control your audio manually without having to go to the screen and click with the mice and everything right now. So you can see right now, automatically, we're talking about a default. So now I want to go into the audio, and I want to make sure that I have the proper communications microphone, Scarlett Solo USB. That means the audio interface is going to be coming through this interface, so I know proper microphone to use. Now you understand that the proper microphone is in place. We have our proper interface connected properly. It's registering. Now it's important to talk about making sure a microphone is not peaking. Peaking is just a terminology that the popping sound and just the overexposure that audio makes when you're talking too close to the microphone. Right, it's really important. This is why I love the Focusrite. So let's take a quick look at the Focusrite camera. You can see right now, this is actually giving me the indication when it's green. I'm not going to be worried about popping, overexposure, but you can see right away when I start talking automatically, you can see how it changes. And if I yell, whoa, hello, you can see how it goes green right away. But of course you don't want to be shouting. If you are loud, if you do have a louder voice, you can simply turn down the dial a little bit to make sure you're not peaking. But if it's down too low, you can see nothing's happening right now. So it's ensure to turn it up as high as possible so they're able to hear you clearly. This is the indication when you have the confirmation that on your settings through the software that it's registering the microphone, and then of course on your audio interface, making sure that it's green. When it's green, you're good. If it's turning into an aqua blue, you're a little bit too close to the microphone's too hot. Yellow is a no-go zone. And then of course, if you're in the red like this, bad news bears. So sure, when you're talking, do some tests how you normally talk. If you get excited sometimes, or if you usually talk a little bit lower, make sure that you're registering it with the audio. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting closer to the end of the checklist. Grab your virtual event checklist. Give yourself a big old check that you've confirmed the audio. You already know what we're going to get into, so we have the cameras all set up to go. We have the audio checked. Let's go back upstairs to GB3 Studios. We can talk briefly about how we can incorporate lighting. We talked about this earlier, 3-point lighting every single time, and we're going to talk about how we're going to be able to use this natural light as one of the 3 points of lighting. So let's head up to GB3 Studios. We'll talk briefly about lighting. Let's head on down and we'll get this thing ready because it's almost showtime. We'll be right back. Let's talk to you soon. All right, we're going to be diving into one of the most difficult and hardest tasks to maneuver and master in your virtual event checklist. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is confirming your audio settings. Audio is king, audio is queen. You're losing your audience right away if you have bad audio. I've been in many cases where they've had the best microphone. They've had great microphones, but they didn't confirm their microphone settings. So they ended up using the microphone on their laptop. And then again, because they didn't go through their virtual event checklist to confirm all of this, they're in the middle of the meeting trying to troubleshoot, wasting time and wasting energy. So let's get into it. Of course, you already know. Confirming your audio settings. This is the most important thing, is understanding which microphone that you're going to be using. You'll find this as you start to use more and more that your voice can potentially change when you start incorporating the microphone. And the reasoning for that is because when you start talking, you have S's and T's and things that really stick out. So you either want to have the microphone further away from you, depending on how strong you talk, or have the microphone closer to you if you do have a slight talk. But we can talk about all these different things and having different gains and audio settings. When we're going into Restream, when we're going into Zoom and Google Hangouts, there's going to be different diffusers and gains and all of these specific settings to make your audio sound significantly better. But it's important to understand that you're testing your microphone beforehand
and you're testing the volume of your microphone. So when you go in there, you don't have somebody saying, hey, it's really hard to hear you. Test your microphone ahead of time. Understand the strength of your voice when you're speaking to the microphone. And if you do have a strong voice and you say a lot of S's and T's, you can maybe turn the microphone down a little bit so it's not putting so much of that energy directly into the microphone, but you can still hear very well. Okay, the next thing is confirming the audio settings to avoid peaking. Peaking, we'll talk about this more when you're downstairs in the kitchen, but having the microphone too close to your face or having the microphone turned up too much is going to cause significant distortion and irritation on the audience's ears, especially if you yell. I've seen so many clients when they're on a live stream or they're on a meeting and they have the headset with the microphone so close to their mouth and they start screaming because they're excited, or they start shouting because they're passionate, and because they didn't check their gain settings, it just sounds completely distorted. Keep it in the green, ladies and gentlemen, depending on the interface that you're using. Green is good, yellow is not great, red is no bueno, and we'll talk about that downstairs. The MicroStudio kit comes, the more advanced case comes with the interface, the Focusrite interface, where you can automatically turn the dial with your hand. The starter kit of the MicroStudio actually comes with a Wave 3 Elgato product, and there'll be software settings that you can pre-configure, and you can actually add things like limiters and gains, and these are a little bit more advanced settings that we'll dive into another digital training. But it's important to understand how to talk to your microphone, how to use the strength of your voice to your advantage, and don't do things like peak, because when you scream it kind of hurts, right? So putting on diffusers and things like that to soften up your voice is extremely important. Of course, accurately placing your microphone. If you have a dynamic microphone, aka a Yeti microphone that picks up a whole room, you do not need to have that microphone within the frame. You could have, I see this so much, we'll be in a position where their microphone will be right in the frame, but all you have to do is just lower it a half an inch to get it out of the frame, and that can still hear you good and clear. Some microphones, such as you're listening to right now, requires it to be more close because it's not designed to pick up a whole room. Entry-level microphones are designed to pick up a whole room, so there's absolutely zero reason to even have the microphone in the frame. It takes up it's very distracting, and it's not necessary. If you're in a position where it needs to be necessary, don't feel bad. But if you have an opportunity, if you're using these baseline microphones like I know so many of you are, there is no reason to have the microphone in the actual shot of the camera. Move it away half an inch, get it out of the actual frame, and we'll still be able to hear you. And again, listen, when you invest in the starter kit MicroStudio, you can actually turn up the gain on that microphone, so you're able to move the microphone out of the frame without actually having to sacrifice the sound. This microphone requires it to be a little bit closer, but I could also add, I could do some settings to take it so it doesn't have to be so close to my face. So understand that with the frame, and we'll talk more about that when we go downstairs. So let's do this thing. Let's go over the quick reminders when we're talking and we're confirming the audio settings. Careful now, we got things falling in GB3 Studios. What's going on? Might need a hard hat, but not today. So you can see here, we talked about lighting. Look how much of a different picture this creates when you don't have proper lighting. Okay, this is a really good opportunity because we talked about this earlier in the seminar, keeping your batteries charged. So in between, I had to charge the batteries again, and I forgot to put it on the actual camera. So let's make this as an educational factor to take a note of how the picture looks right now without having the light. Please hold, I'll go grab the light. And then now we actually have the light on, so significantly better picture. And this, we'll get into the lighting and how important it is with the 3-point lighting system. Audio, Know your microphone. Know what microphone you're using. Because especially when you start implementing all this technology, you might be in a situation where you have 3 or 4 microphones in the setting, and it might pick up on the wrong setting because the default is on a different microphone. So know your microphone setting. Avoid peaking. Okay? You don't have to make out with your microphone. Some microphones are designed to have it close by, but if you have your microphone close, you need to understand you have to start speaking softer, or not speaking directly into the microphone and speaking just above the microphone, so it's not picking up on T's and S's so intensely. So you need to understand your voice and your enunciation when we go with that. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, keep your batteries plugged in, because just like that, when you're in the middle of a meeting, now we have to do this whole training without proper lighting. So I apologize for that. This is a long seminar, so these batteries have to take a long time. So I'll take a quick break. I'll make sure that's charged up for the next segment there. Avoid peaking, know your microphone, and of course, proper placement. Okay? Most of these microphones don't need to be in the actual frame. You can lower it down a little bit, get it completely out of the frame, and you can still be heard nicely, okay? And it creates, again, getting away any sort of distractions or avoiding, but if you do have a microphone that's a condenser microphone, for example, a condenser microphone doesn't pick up so much outside sounds, whereas a dynamic microphone picks up a whole room. All these entry-level microphones are going to be the ones that pick up the room. So you either have to have your settings properly configured with your software, or you will learn how to actually speak with the microphone. See, these are the top 3. And again, confirm your power and battery. Make sure your batteries and everything's all plugged in so you don't have to worry about stuff like this going out. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know. Let's get back to the board. Let's do our thing. Let's do our thing. We already got to do it. Hit them with it now. Boom. We just confirmed our audio settings, ladies and gentlemen. We only have a couple more left. You're 3/4 to being virtually professional. And I'm excited for you because I'm getting excited. I feel this. I feel that we're getting close to the end of the checklist. And once you're done this seminar, you're going to have the confidence to go any sort of virtual meeting and feel great. Start to close more deals, shorten sales cycles, gather an audience, build a community, because they see that you're trying. And as human beings, when we see other people trying, we want to be associated with those people who are trying. So when they see you going through this much effort and this much emphasis on your virtual event checklist to ensure that you're providing your clients and your audience with a superior experience, they're going to see that and they're going to want to be associated with you. You already know. I'm gonna send you back downstairs. I'm gonna charge that battery so the light don't go out on us, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're going to be going to the lighting. Lighting is the most underutilized system when I talk about the tripod of virtual professionalism, right? Good audio, good visual, and great lighting. You'd be surprised, and when you're in a situation and you start utilizing lights to your advantage, you can make even the most simple webcam look like a complete rock star in a crystal clear picture when we're talking about showing up in the virtual world. I need to emphasize, more light does not mean a better picture, right? We have a lot of situations where we're in a room, we're in a place where we have all the lights on, we have everything turned up as bright as possible. As I can see, this is a really good example. Let's grab our cameras right now, and let's pump this up to the highest Kelvins we can, just to demonstrate, and then we're gonna pump this up to the 100% mark, just to demonstrate that it's not necessary to have extremely light all the time. So when we're looking at this situation, if I'm going into a lighting situation, we're gonna talk about 3-point lighting system. Of course, we have a key light, we have a fill light, and then of course we have a backlight. We talked about in the studio the different temperatures of lighting to use. I'm always going to recommend using the highest Kelvin light as possible, as when you start blending in as far as your 2 main lights, When you start utilizing more of a warm light, you're gonna give yourself a little bit more of an orange tone, which might come across as being a little bit of, of an Oompa Loompa or something like that. So we want to avoid that at all ways possible. And of course, we need to be mindful of individuals who wear glasses, right? You can see right now, this light right here is casting right directly onto my camera. So this is extremely important to be mindful of the actual placement of the light. When I'm looking at this situation, I have a big natural light window that's coming over here. So I don't feel it's necessary to even have this light on this side. So you can see right away, it eliminated any sort of glare that I've got with these lights when you're having your glasses on. So of course what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take away this light completely. So now I'm gonna use the natural light as my key light right here. We have a bit of a fill light right here actually. So I'm actually going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this light away so it's not casting any sort of false narrative of lights that are coming in right now. So you can see automatically significantly darker shadows when it comes to this part. I don't hate this look. I don't think it's a bad picture whatsoever. However, you can see here again, this light is casting a little bit on my glasses. So I'm going to want to move a little bit more to the actual side. Rather than having it placed in front of you, you see how it does that? Place it more to the actual side of your view so you're still getting that off light. So you can see this is with the fill light looking at me. Fill light, no fill light. Fill light, no fill light, right? So it's very subtle, but it's very important to be able to cast that shadow. Again, you have your natural light coming in for your key light. Now remember how we talked about this little salt lamp? I love incorporating backlights as a third light option. It creates depth within your backdrop and your actual picture, and it allows you to kind of highlight some things. So you can see here, I actually have a light right here. This is another Lume Cube light that I actually use, and it's just a great opportunity to kind of highlight some areas that you can see here. If you wanted to highlight something like that, create a little bit more contrast or something, right? You can see automatically having something like that is great. And if you want to highlight features, this would come better in handy if we're in a darker situation and we want to light up a little bit more features. So you can see here, that might even be a great opportunity to have a third point lighting system. Right? Just to create a little bit more dynamic with your backdrop and again, create that depth. What many don't know is when you're implementing a third light is a hair light. How drastic a hair light can actually be when you're doing your virtual presentations. And again, it just creates that depth within the space in this crown area, so creating that situation. So remember how we had this light, we didn't necessarily need it? What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna shrink this down. I'm gonna give myself an opportunity to have more of an actual down light. So you can see in the overhead, I'm gonna put this higher up onto my backdrop. This is probably I'm going to want to put in a higher category. So I'm going to have this in the 100% category with the 5600, and then I'm going to move this up a little bit. You can see here I'm going to put it on my top shelf, bring it down a little bit, and then even how much of a drastic difference that makes for having the light down here. And even for example, if you find yourself you're blocking in a situation like this, you can always put, right? Get creative. So you have a stand here, you have an opportunity to move this light, okay? This is an ideal situation, have it right behind you, and then you can create more of a dynamic picture when coming up here. You can even have it tilted up a little bit too. To create that backdrop. So it's a great opportunity, and again, because we're in the such natural light right now, it's not as drastic, but of course, if you're in a darker setting, if you're in a darker scenario where you need to light up the picture, that is a great opportunity to do that too. So there's your 3-point lighting system. Right now, I mean, you can even see here, you can bring it over here. It's not terrible. It's overexposing, right? Find yourself for having too much light on this one side. And a great option is you can even have this, again, cast light on the backdrop. right? Have it, maybe you want to highlight these bowls for whatever reason. I don't know why you would want to, but this is an opportunity where you can use this almost like a spotlight on a different option to create more depth, create more image when it talks. So 3-point lighting system, key light, fill light, and then if you ever need anything like that, you can see you have a heart, you can have a hair light. So you can see how drastic that can be if you wanted to hang it up, and if in a dark situation, it would give you a situation where it looks like that, right? And that, again, is gonna create more depth. And even when you have it behind you, see, this is a great opportunity in a dark situation where it's gonna create that backdrop there for you. You can have it hidden a little bit there, but of course, you're gonna have to be a little bit more creative. But that is one of my secret tips. Lighting. Lighting, there you go, there you have it. There is my lighting system. So I'm excited to have this coming in. So I have my backdrop, have these multiple lights coming in. Grab your virtual event checklist. This is getting exciting. You got confirm your lighting just like that. I'm excited to do that, confirm your lighting. And of course, what we're gonna be doing, let's go back upstairs, talk about in a situation where you maybe not be in a sound dampening studio and you have to have an opportunity where you have to address and you have to acknowledge background noises, dogs barking, babies crying, family members when you work from home, co-workers in the backdrop. There's ways that you're able to maneuver through this so you can let your audience know what's going on in your situation, so you don't have to be in an awkward situation where, for example, with me, I got construction outside. So we're going to talk about this. Let's head up to GB3 Studios. I'm going to get everything ready. We're almost done the virtual sales checklist. It's almost showtime for my big event, and I'm getting very, very excited. There's nothing that gets me more excited than actual preparation into these meetings. So let's head up to the studios and let's talk about background noise and the importance of it and how we can manage it if we're in a situation where we're not able to dampen the sound. So let's go check it out.
All right. You already know what time it is. We are going into the theory of one of the last virtual event checklist, lighting, ladies and gentlemen. Lighting. One of the 3 pillars to virtual professionalism. Remember, we got visual, we got audio. Let's get into lighting. Lighting is the most underutilized tool that virtual professionals use because you can use it to your benefit significantly without having to invest in a lot of money to create the image that you're looking for. However, not having the right training and the right knowledge on what type of light to use can be very detrimental to all of the effort that you put into for your virtual event checklist. So let's get into it. Diving into the lighting settings, extremely important to understand is utilize natural light to your advantage. And I say this because natural light doesn't cost anybody anything, and it's an extremely popular way to highlight the features that you're comfortable with. However, not all direct light is good. Not all natural light is good. When you start dealing with the direct sun, you're gonna find yourself getting washed out, constantly having to squint when you're in your meetings, and it's gonna be an overall disaster. So I let my clients know, if you are having to use natural light to your benefit, please use a north-facing window if possible. When you start dealing with south-facing windows, you're gonna have to deal with the morning rise sun and the morning set sun, and it's gonna cause a lot of issues when you're trying to create that crispy picture. Use natural light to your benefit, but not all natural light is good light. Always, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you get in your MicroStudio, and this is why you get 3 lights in your MicroStudio to implement a 3-point lighting system. You have a key light, you have a fill light, and you have a backlight. 1, 2, 3, key, fill, backlight, or a hair light, however you want to say that. These 3 lighting system is going to be able to give you the opportunity to highlight the features that you're comfortable with. Of course, low light features that you may not be comfortable with. So many struggle to get on video because they are not confident with how they look. Utilizing lighting to your advantage is going to bring you the confidence that you're looking for when showing up on video. So 3-point lighting system, best case scenario, use the 3-point light system and get away from natural light if possible. If you aren't able to get away from natural light, there's ways that you can use it to your benefit, and we will talk about that down at the kitchen table. The way lighting is broken down is by Kelvins. The lower the Kelvin means warmer the light. So you'll see on the scale on the farthest side from me, those are warm tone lights, more of an orangey yellow type feel to it. I'm always going to recommend use the whitest light that you're able to use. I use typically a 5600 Kelvin on my lighting process to give it the whitest light, because, and I'll show you in a bit how it can drastically change the picture. And very often when you're using warm lights, it's from individuals using lights from their roof, from their lamps, and it creates more of an orangey tone on your pigment of your skin. So let's do a quick example of what I mean about the Kelvins in itself. So we look right here, this is all the white lights that I'm using. And with just such a subtle change, I'm going to take this from the white lights, so 5600 Kelvins, and I'm gonna move this down. So you can see it already how drastically that's changed, right? So I'm moving to a warmer, to a warmer, to a warmer light, and you see how orange you can look. This is just me just sliding the dials from warm light to a white light. And I typically let my clients know that you should stay away from the orange lights or warm lights as much as possible. If I'm in a setting where I'm actually casting light on the subject, i.e. me, i.e. you, use warmer tone lights. If you're in a situation where you have to use the white lights, use the whiter lights on you, but the warm lights to amplify the backdrop and to highlight things in the backdrop. Because when you're using warm lights to highlight yourself, you're gonna look like an Oompa Loompa, right? So let's keep it to the white lights. This is actually 7,000 Kelvins. 56 to 7,000 Kelvins is kind of my rule of thumb when it comes to those things. So understanding Kelvins and understanding how to implement that when you're creating your dynamic picture. Confirming the quick reminders, okay? Let's get our lights set up here and let's move to the coach's corner, because these are going to be extremely important things to be mindful of. All right, so we'll get the lights turned on there. Let's switch it over at the coach's corner here, and I want to talk to you with the lighting settings. So of course, use natural light to your advantage. However, not all natural light is good light. Stay away from direct sunlight. I highly recommend staying away from south-facing windows. If you're able, use north-facing windows. And if you're not able to do that, you're gonna have to grab some curtains, or you're gonna have to grab some blinds that's gonna diffuse that light for you. So diffusing the light means you're gonna soften the light, and you can do these cost-effective with scarves, with blinds. You can go to a Home Hardware or Home Depot and you can get blackout blinds for a very cost-effective rate. And ideally, if you can black out the light and use synthetic lights, that's going to create the best picture. So natural light is good. Understand Kelvins, okay? Which is going to let you understand temperature. Temperature of the picture is going to put more pigment in your skin. It's going to change it a little bit, and it's going to create more of a dynamic picture. So I highly recommend staying away. We want to use about 5,600 to 7,000 Kelvins, more of a whiter light to create the best picture. However, depending on your skin tone, if you have a different color skin tone, the warmer lights actually might cast a better picture for you. Rule of thumb, if you're highlighting your subject, i.e. you, use white lights. Use more of a bright light. If you want to highlight your backdrop, you can use more of a warm light. So use the white light to highlight yourself, warm lights to highlight other features and other aspects of the room. Natural light, understanding your temperature, and then making sure that everything looks well. What am I missing here? We got the natural light, understanding their temperature. Let's even talk, and then obviously, okay, 3-point lighting system, okay? So we got key light,
we got a fill light, and this is going to be actually a great example of a backlight. So I actually have a light on the roof, and you can see here when I stand in front how much it highlights the crown and it creates that depth. We'll talk about this more down at the kitchen table, but having a backlight coming on there is what's going to actually separate you from your backdrop and going to be extremely imperative when you start using virtual backgrounds or when you start using green screens on that. So there's the breakdown and confirming your light. Come on now, let's head on to the green screen. We know what we got to do as a team. Hit yourself, confirming the light. Quick reminder, boom, bow. Confirm your lighting settings. You already know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most underutilized tool. So please use it, learn, and implement onto your day-to-day routine, and you're going to ensure that you're providing your clients with a crispy, superior picture, and it's going to make sure it's going to highlight the tones that you're looking for when you're running virtual events. We're getting close to the end of it. Let's head downstairs. We're going to talk about background noise quickly, how to handle it, how to manage it, what we need to do. So we'll send you down there quickly. And then once you're down there, we'll come back up and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you soon. Another note I need to make with audio, if this is you, and you're going into a virtual meeting, you're not a pilot, you're not a gamer, let's just stop that. And I'm not even going to dive into it. That's not virtually professional. There's other options that are less distracting than something like that. So let's move on from that. All right, so welcome back. So we're going to talk about background noise. Background noise is one of the most frustrating pieces when we're talking about working from home, because a lot of it's out of your control. You can't necessarily control when your kid is getting a little bit out of control and wants to talk and wants to be a kid, right? Those are things that we can't avoid in the virtual world, especially for myself right now. I got construction going on outside of my house all day long, and it's extremely noisy, and it breaks things up in the meeting. So if you're unable to avoid any of these situations, obviously the best case scenario, letting your coworkers, letting your family members know, hey, I'm about to go into a really important meeting for the next half hour. Do you mind going into another room? Could we go situation downstairs? Same thing with your pets. As much as I love my pets, if they're in a situation where they're constantly barking, there's nothing more annoying than actually the pitch of a dog barking during a meeting. You're going to lose them right away. They're not even going to be focused on your mission or your statement anymore. They're just going to be wanting to get the heck out of there. So if you can't avoid all of these situations, acknowledge it. Acknowledge this right at the start. You say, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm really sorry. My daycare is actually closed today, and I got a little rugrat running around. They know that I'm on a call, but if you do hear some noise in the background, just know, and if it is annoying for you, just please address it right away. I'll do the best I can to try to manage it, and then we can carry on through the meeting, right? The best thing you can do to avoid background noise or to create that awkward situation is address it. I've been in a lot of meetings where they have their dog barking and they just let the dog bark and they try to ignore the situation without having to address it. It's important to just acknowledge it, let the client know. You'll be surprised on how forgiving people are when they know you're working from home and you're working in the virtual world, because technology happens, technology breaks down. Simply acknowledge it. We don't have to bark into that more. Look, we're almost at the end here, so go ahead, grab a virtual event checklist, give yourself a good old confirmation on the background noise. No, and even when you're in a situation, make sure your windows are shut. You know what I mean? Make sure you have an opportunity. Great microphones are going to be a phenomenal way to be able to limit the noise reduction. And this is exactly why I use this Shure SM7B for the MicroStudio kit, because when you're dealing with other microphones are technically designed to pick up whole rooms. Right? So if you're picking up a whole room, you're going to pick up everything else, the vent making noise, all of these little things that are going to happen. So when you get yourself a beautiful microphone, something that's actually geared towards your actual voice and actually takes out all of the outside noise, you're not going to have to worry about that. So this is one situation where technology and the equipment itself can do you wonders when we're talking about background noises. And of course, if you're not in a situation to have a microphone like that, check the software that you're are using. Again, any software platform is going to give you an opportunity where you can have diffusers, you can have limitations as far as that's automatically checked off for you, so you can reduce that background noise right away. We're almost done. Let's head upstairs. We're going to talk about physical appearance. What? Physical appearance? Extremely important when you're going to a virtual meeting, so you can avoid any sort of embarrassment. Let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost getting close to the end of the virtual event checklist. I want to dive into something that's extremely important for your audience: background noise. This is something that can be extremely frustrating for your audience because it takes away the ability to concentrate on your actual message, because you're putting them in a position where they can't hear you anymore, whether it's people talking, dogs barking, babies crying, outside noises that can be addressed and can be situated if you handle it. But most people don't even acknowledge it, and they try to ignore it, and it's putting more damage on their brand than help. We know that we all work in the virtual world, and many of us still work from home, so we are very accommodating for those who work from home. However, you still need to address these situations to ensure that you're the virtual professional, you respect their time, and you respect them taking the time to listen to your message. So avoiding any sort of background noise and ensuring that you have their undivided attention is extremely important to virtual professionalism. You already know, let's get into it. What's extremely important if you're going into a virtual meeting and there's others around you, to let them know you're about to go into a virtual meeting. I was on a meeting last week, and this group of individuals were trying to pitch the idea of an investment. And as the lead person was going through the pitch, I could hear their significant other in the kitchen making obnoxious noises, being extremely loud, having the sink run. And nobody acknowledged it, and it went on for a good amount of the actual meeting. You need to let others know that you're going into a virtual meeting. It's not especially if you work from home, it's not their job to monitor when you're going into meetings, when you're not going into meetings. It's imperative for you to address that for them and let them know, hey, I'm about to go into a virtual meeting. Can you please keep it down or go into another room? And if you're unable to do that, it's time for you to address this with your audience. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I appreciate you taking the time to sit on this video call with me. I want to let you know that my significant other right now is actually in the kitchen cooking dinner for our family. So I want to let you know, if you hear some clanking or dinging around, that's kind of what's going on. If you find if it's getting annoying or we're not able to concentrate, I'll address it accordingly. But I just want to let you know, if you do hear some stuff, it's just my significant other in the back taking care of business. Address it. We'll talk about this downstairs, but I have construction that's outside, and it plays a role when I'm going into virtual meetings because it can be noticed. Hey, I have my kids are at home. I have my dog here, so if you hear the dog barking, just let me know if it's annoying for you, and I'll handle it accordingly for you. So acknowledge it, bring it up for yourself, and you're gonna get that respect from your clients because they're accommodating. All of a sudden, they can sympathize with you, right? Being able to have your clients and your audience sympathize with you is gonna give you that respect of virtual professionalism. Turn off any sort of notifications, dings, bells, buzzes. Everything should be turned off. How often are we checking our phone in virtual meetings? Do we do that when we're face-to-face? If we're in a face-to-face meeting and we hear our phone go off, do we check it quickly and just do this in a meeting? No. So why do we do that in a virtual meeting? Turn off any sort of notifications that's going to take away the distraction for you, because when you have these bells go off, all of a sudden it's going to take away your attention, and because your attention got taken away, now you lost the attention of your audience. We don't want to do that. We want to maintain the respect and the undivided attention of our audience to ensure that we're getting our message out. Turn anything off that's going to cause these distractions for you, right? And then, of course, let's head on over to the coach's corner. We can talk about these things briefly. I don't want to touch too heavy on it because the background noise, this is something that's very hard to manage, especially if working from home. There's only so much we can do as individuals to avoid background noises, but if we have a dog that constantly barks at everything, it might not be in the best interest to have the dog in the same room when you're going into a meeting.
or simple things like acknowledging it. So obviously, right, know the background noises. Okay, we want to address it. We want to turn off any sort of notifications. Okay. Those are the main two things that we want to do, because once you address it, and if you turn off any sort of notifications it's going to bring with you, it's just a matter of moving forward and going on with it. And finally, if you're working from home, let others know, right? Even your kids. They're going to be kids, so they're not going to be quiet, but they should know that you're about to go into a virtual meeting. So let them know, address the situation if it does arrive, and then of course, you got to turn off the notifications to avoid any sort of distractions for yourself, because we don't like background noise. So let's head on over to the green screen. We'll check this thing off. We got one more thing going on. Boom pow, confirming your background noise. How you like me now? Stamp it on there. You can go to your virtual event checklist right here, and you can check that thing off. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the 9th check-in. I'm going to send you downstairs quickly. We're going to talk about physical appearance. Physical appearance is extremely important, and it's imperative when going into virtual professionalism to demonstrate that you're best of your ability and how you look, because when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, they're going to feel that too, which is going to get you all the positive responses that you want. So check it off. Let's send you downstairs. We'll talk about physical appearance, and we'll see you shortly. What's going on, everybody? So obviously we're in a situation where I'm in the bathroom right now. This is the last thing that I do before I go into any single virtual meeting, and this is just not something that I'm spending a whole lot of time with, but I'm being mindful. I do want to make a quick note. This is what warm light looks like and how the picture, so you can see how different it creates a picture when you're using a warm light versus a white light. So confirm the physical appearance. This is just something that I do to try to avoid embarrassment. I've had situations where I've had food in my teeth, I've had something in my beard, I had a stain on my shirt, I've had my collar that was popped. So these are just all very simple things that I just want to be mindful of, so before I go and sit down, that I'm actually just in a situation that I don't have to worry about that. And it's going to make me feel less obligated to constantly look at myself. We have these issues when we're in virtual meetings where we look at ourselves more than we actually look at our client, and that's due to just insecurities. So of course, what I want to do before I go into every single meeting, just make sure there's no smudge marks on it, right? So I'm going to brush my teeth quickly if I just had lunch or anything like that. Of course, I'm going to floss. Of course, I'm going to be using mouthwash and all of this stuff. I got my beard comb, so I make sure that's all good. Of course, quick check of the hair, making sure everything's right. And of course, I'll get my attire on, right? You know me, every time I go into virtual meetings, I want to look as professional as possible. So something like this, you might not be able to notice. So simple thing, making sure that your collar is in place, you look good, because look, when you look good, you feel good and you're ready to go. So right now, I'm confident. I'm excited to go into this meeting and talk to these shareholders about why MicroStudio is actually going to change and revolutionize the way hybrid workers work in a remote setting and how we show up on video. So I'm excited. Confirming the physical appearance. Hey, what do you think? I think I look good going in the virtual meeting. Let's head back downstairs to the MicroStudio and let's wrap everything up. So we'll be right back. All right. Let's get into the very last task of your virtual event checklist, confirming your physical appearance. This is not something that you need to spend a lot of time on, but you need to make a quick check. Before you go into every single meeting, we take sips of coffee, we have nibbles of food in between meetings. We need to make sure there's nothing in our teeth. We need to make sure our shirts have no wrinkles, there's no stains in them. Our beards are combed. You already know, comb your beards, comb your hair, brush your teeth, look presentable. There's reasonings for this, and there's a reason why you need to do this, because it's unfortunate, but this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. First impressions matter. Perception matters. If you roll up in the virtual meeting, and you don't have to wear a shirt and tie, but if you look lazy, and if you look like you don't care, the very first impression is going to be that you do not care. Confirming your physical appearance is going to make you feel better about yourself. Personal hygiene is extremely important. Brush your teeth, deodorant, all of it. In the morning, put yourself in a position where you're feeling good, and that's going to relay in there. First impressions matter. Do not use authenticity as an excuse. Oh, I never brush my hair. I never do this. I just want to be my authentic self. I get this a lot even with the equipment. Oh, I don't want to use anything more than a laptop camera because that's just me being authentic. No, you're making excuses for yourself to make you feel better about yourself. Hurts, but let's be honest with ourselves here. We make excuses to make ourselves feel better. Using terminology like authenticity and this is how I just am, that's not an excuse. Respect them. Respect their time. Show that you care. Show that you're taking care of yourself because you're going to feel a lot better about it and they're going to notice that too. Look your best, feel your best. I wear a shirt and tie every time I show up at work because when I work from home, one of the biggest difficulties from work from home individuals is separating yourself from your work life to your home life. When it's a work day and it's time for me to go, I put on my suit every single day because it makes me feel confident. And it's also very hard to take a nap in a full suit. Now, if I wore my sweats all day and I just did my own thing, I'm too relaxed. I'm too much in vacation mode. I'm too much at home mode. And my results reflect that accordingly. And hey, if I'm wearing my sweats, I can go quickly take a 15-20 minute nap. So I don't want to dive in this any more than we need to. Confirming your physical appearance every single time. Before you go into meetings, just make sure there's nothing in your teeth. Make sure nothing's popped, nothing like that. Very, very simple. It's imperative to do these things because you need to care about yourself if you want to care about others. So I get into that. Obviously, quick reminder, we'll go to the board because this is the very, very, very last, confirming your physical appearance. Okay. Keep a mirror close by on your desk or anything like that if you can. Just have a quick check. For me, because I work from home, I just go quickly to the washroom and I'd be able to check the mirror and everything like that there. But if you're in a position where you're not able to check that, then hey, keep a mirror by your desk, keep a mirror close by so you can check these simple things for yourself. First impressions matter. I'll tell you one thing. I've never been made fun of for wearing a suit, or I've never been judged for being overdressed. There have been times where I've been judged when I've been underdressed, never when I'm overdressed. First impressions matter. How do you want to relay your image to your clients? Okay? Of course, feel good. Look good, feel good. We always want to feel good. That's the main thing. Proper hygiene is going to make you feel good and it's going to make you look good. So it's imperative every single meeting. Check your physical appearance. I'm done with that. We don't need to harp on it. You're grown. I'm grown. Brush your teeth, brush your hair, and then we'll get through this together. Okay, so let's head to the green screen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is extremely exciting because this is the very last check. Get it on your box. Boom. Confirm physical appearance. Ladies and gentlemen, you are officially virtually professional. Going through these lists every single meeting, it's going to become faster and faster and faster as you go on. I'm going to send you downstairs quickly for a closing remark. I'm going to bring it back up here. It's been my absolute pleasure to be your instructor. We just finished a whole list of 10. I know it was long, but it's informative and it's extremely important. And because you invested in digital content and digital strategies, you can go back and watch these videos anytime you need to brush up or anytime you need a reminder how to become virtually professional quickly. I'm going to send you back downstairs for closing remarks. We'll come back up here and then I will certify yourself as a virtual professional. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's go time. It's show time. I'm ready to go. We went through step by step the virtual event checklist. This is what I've been using for the past 2 years and I'm going to continue using moving forward. And I hope this workshop was informative for you and it's going to persuade and motivate you to use this exact same checklist. So of course, we only got one more check to go. Confirm the physical appearance. Look good, feel good, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we're doing it. And of course, right before I go into the meeting, I have about 5 minutes left in the meeting. I'm always going to show up to my meeting early minimum 5 minutes, but worst case scenario, about 2 minutes. So of course we're doing this training right now, so I'm gonna jump into the meeting right away. But before we go into this, I had one final check of absolutely everything going into. So of course, physical appearance, everything looks good. I'm very, very excited for it. Internet connection, everything is looking fine. I have no issues so far as the internet connection's going. I make sure all my cell phones and all the other devices are turned off at this point going into it. Confirm battery and power, everything is plugged in. I'm not gonna have to worry about any lights that are going out. Camera settings are looking phenomenal. I'm excited for that. And we got the audio settings. Mic check, can you hear me? I hope so. I'm looking at my audio interface. Everything is looking good right now. Lighting section, I'm very excited. This is extremely important to be mindful of with the lighting too, because your lighting is going to change during the day as it goes on, right? More in the evening, we're gonna have more of that warmer tone, that warmer feeling, whereas more in the morning meetings, we're gonna have that white light, that energized light, so be mindful of that going forward. Background. I think the background looks good. Everything is, I'm lined up center into my frame. There's nothing crooked. The camera's not crooked. I'm looking at you as if I would be looking at you in the board meeting. Platform, we're using Restream right now. We're recording this on Restream. Everything is going smoothly. Everything is going great. And of course, I've got my meeting plan ready to go. Do you got your show notes ready to go? Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna send you back up to GB3 Studios before we end this workshop. This has been fun. I really hope you found value in this, and please do not hesitate to reach out to me should you have any questions, or if you want to go over the virtual event checklist. If your sales team wants me to come to your organization and implement this, I would be happy to do so. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Virtual Professionalism. I'm your instructor, Garen Belaney, and I appreciate you taking the time to walk through this workshop. Have yourself a wonderful day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for investing into MicroStudio and investing into virtual professionalism. This has been my goal for the last 2 years, is to provide an educational training to let everybody know that showing up virtually professional is extremely important moving forward into this world, as everything is getting digitized. And we're creating more effective and efficient ways to become sales trainers, to become presenters, and to become hosts. And for you, following this virtual checklist is going to assure that you're going to have the confidence you need showing up in a virtual meeting. You're going to be separating yourself from your competitors. You're going to be winning more deals. You're going to be building bigger communities. And you're going to be having a lot of fun doing it. I thank you so much for trusting me as your virtual presenter, your virtual instructor. And I got to let you know, if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, info@GarenBelaney.com. If you do want to get your hands on a hard copy of your virtual event checklist, simply email us and we'll be sure to get that sent out to you, ladies and gentlemen. If you are looking to upgrade your equipment, if you're a traveling professional, or if you just simply want something to put all of your brand new gear in, when it's time to go, baby, grab your MicroStudio professional carrying bag. That's also gonna come with a certified MicroStudio carrying case. Let's pop it up here. Just like that, to carry all of your equipment with you. If you do have equipment recommendations that you're looking for, please feel free to schedule an appointment with me. Thank you so much for investing in my course and giving me an opportunity to spread my message of virtual professionalism. My name is Garen Belaney, and I'm your instructor, and I appreciate your time. We'll see you again. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in from MicroStudio. I'm your host, Garen Belaney.